world gone insane. An upside-down civilization cannot be real. A world of madness and terror.
It's the Dana Gould Hour.
Today's show is brought to you by Casper. Get $50 towards any mattress purchase by visiting casper.com/Dana and using the promo code Dana. And by trees. Those big things in your yard. Trees. Hot Town Summer in the City, the Lovin' Spoonful sang it. But we're going to keep you cool with a bunch of junk. How's that? We have 4 amazing guests. Today, April Richardson is back. A double shot. And she's here with her pal and mine, Karen Kilgariff. You can find April online at Apey, A-P-E-Y, and Karen is one half of the podcast My Favorite Murder. And if you don't know about that by now, there's nothing I can do to help you. Bobcat Goldthwait is here with his pal, comedian Caitlin Gill. Bob has a new show coming out on True called Misfits and Monsters. And that, from what I can tell, is going to be amazing. As for me, lots of stuff coming up. On August 17th, 18th, and 19th, I will be in Cleveland, Ohio at Hilarities, and I will try my best to live up to its name. And on September 9th, I will be in Boise, Idaho at the Egyptian Theater as part of the 208 Comedy Festival. October will see the release of my new album, Mr. Funny Man, on Kill Rock Stars Records and Tapes. And Season 2 of Stand Against Evil premieres on IFC on November 1st. So lots and lots of stuff. DanaGould.com for details. But in the meantime, on to our filthy business.
Gould Hour. Free. And worth it.
It's showtime.
It's a hot one. It's a hot one.
Oh, it's a hot one.
Here at Falcon's Lair Recording Studios, high atop the Mulholland Drive view shelf in beautiful, sunny Southern California. And I'm here with 2 lovely women comedians. Ew. It's a new thing. the lovely and talented April Richardson is here.
Hi, this is the sound of my voice.
And the lovelier and talenteder, fight, Karen Kilgariff is here.
Hi, this is the sound of my voice.
Beautiful. Now, Karen, I have a question for you.
Okay.
I was going to ask you this question thinking, does this happen to you now? And it's so, how pathetic it would be if that was true. And then I realized, oh, wait, I've already done this to you. Are you at a point now where the only time people talk to you is when they've thought of a great murder that you should know about? And does that get a little overwhelming? Because the last time I talked to you, it was to do exactly that.
It doesn't get overwhelming. It definitely happens a lot, but many people try to talk to me at all hours of day and night about many things.
Well,
I'm just kidding. No, I'm joking. That was false bravado. No, yeah, it does happen a lot, but it honestly is my favorite thing to talk about. Mm-hmm. I much rather talk about that than the weird small talk that people make when they're trying to just chit chat, which I can't stand. If somebody walks up and is like, my father killed my mother, I will like grab both their shoulders and pull them into a corner because it's my favorite. It's just like,
with kindness, and then you shove them away.
Get out of here!
You killed my mother with understanding and empathy.
Oh, a Presbyterian. Yeah. So, yeah, I like it. I like the drama. I like the intensity.
Yeah.
It's very fun, and I like how connected people seem to feel through the enjoyment of such scary, awful topics.
Yeah, no, that it was interesting because I thought of that. I thought of that and then immediately realized that I had just done it, and then I felt bad. So it was like thinking of you, and then I felt bad. That's the connection that I made.
I think that's the connection that happens to most people most of the time. Not a lot of positive experiences.
Now, I'm not. Have you done the Black Dahlia yet?
No.
That should be a big one for you.
It's all the ones that are like very historical and there's lots of books about it and different things, I avoid because it's so much homework, and it's always just trying to get a book report done when the 60 minutes stopwatch is clicking down at 7:30 on Sunday night and you haven't read the book. That's my whole life.
Yeah, exactly. Weirdly, on the anniversary of her death, I think it was January 15th, I was at Burbank Airport this year, and I was aware it was the anniversary of her death because I used to do a bit about it. I was in the airport, and I looked, and James Ellroy, who wrote the book, was literally standing right next to me.
Holy shit.
And I said, James Ellroy. He goes, yeah. I said, oh, my God, what are you doing? And he's like, he lives in Denver now. And I said, a very fortuitous day. This is the anniversary of Elizabeth Short's murder. And he was like, that's why I'm in town. I'm going down to, and it was really cool. And it was just like
her ghost put in there.
The weirdest day to bump into him.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. I love that.
Yeah. He is amazing and off his rocker.
He's so intense. Like when he's on those true crime shows and he's the narrator where it's like, it's so much garbage in this town where you're like,
he has a very specific way of talking.
And it's like the person who you've kicked out his window for the fourth time. Yeah. And you're getting lectured in that tone of voice, but he's actually just trying to tell you the history of the police in Los Angeles or something where you're like, I can't be yelled at. I'm trying to watch TV.
I'm sure his mother was murdered, and his obsession with the Black Dahlia was really a projection of his inability to confront his mother's murder, but he transferred it onto the Black Dahlia, and he wrote this great book about it called My Dark Places. And the audio version of that makes it so much easier to read his books because you hear his voice and you get into his rhythm, and then when you read his books you can hear it, and it is like
it flows right along,
musical thing.
Yeah.
And the weird thing that I remember from the book on tape was him going, "The call went out. Dead white women were big news in El Monte." Like he just relentlessly driving.
It sounds sarcastic, condescending, and the most earnest preacher all wrapped up in one ball.
And he's this, but he kind of and when he does, if you ever see him do readings, he has bits. Right. He's like, "Good evenings, pimps, pederasts." He does his whole shtick.
Yeah. Right.
And he comes across as this very right wing, and will use words that you're not supposed to use in polite company. And one of the characters that he writes about, he takes these real people and puts them into these fictionalized stories. And one of the people in his Underworld USA trilogy is Bayard Rustin.
Yeah.
And Bayard Rustin was one of Martin Luther King's chief aides. And he was openly gay and openly communist. And I think openly black in the late 50s, early 60s, which was an incredibly brave thing. It actually caused problems for Martin Luther King with J. Edgar Hoover. And he writes about him in the way that he would write about him. Oddly, Bayard Rustin's partner towards the end of his life was my ex-wife's uncle.
What?
Yeah. And he's literally the caretaker of his legacy now. So when I said James Ellroy, and I was talking to him, I go, actually, it's funny, I have a connection to Bayard Rustin. And the way he talked about him was so different from the way he writes about him. Is he is a very fascinating individual. You really can't underestimate the bravery of a man in that period of time. This is just your shtick.
Yeah.
Right.
I love when you realize it's all a shtick. I remember I used the same thing different. You just go to Comic-Con a lot, and you'd always see these gorgeous women in cosplay,
Right.
walking around Comic-Con. And I'm like, where are these women? I'm in comic book stores all the time.
Right.
I never see them. I would never talk to them because hot rape bristle. Right? It's the shortest distance between them listening and them blowing into a rape whistle, my voice. But I was at Comic-Con several years ago, and I was in line. I was married at the time. I had my daughter with me. So I'm like, I have a wedding ring on. I have a little girl. Clearly, I'm not out making any moves on anybody. So this gorgeous woman dressed like Silk Spectre from Watchmen was in line behind us. And I just turned around and I go, can I ask you a question? Like, are you really into Alan Moore? Did you make... She goes, oh, no, I'm a model. They just pay us to walk around like this.
Oh,
and I was like, of course.
Yeah.
Right. Of course you're not real. How did I know this?
Right.
I was like the end of Soylent Green. The beautiful nerd women are fake.
Wait a minute. What is the benefit of who's paying her?
The producers at Comic-Con.
Just to entice more dudes. Dudes are already going to go to Comic-Con.
Yeah, but I mean, if you think about it, part of the reason they go to Comic-Con is because they know things like that will be there. It's like, it can't just be booths and comic books. Like,
it's about creating an experience.
Right, but
it's not just also guys with their T-shirts tucked into shorts.
But that's so like
muttering into their fanny pack.
Style, like
JPL.
But you're going knowing it's a thing. You're not gonna. Do you know what I'm saying? It's like this when you think the stripper really likes you. It's like, no, duh, they just want tips. Like, you go knowing it's a thing. Like, that lady's not going to date you at any of those guys.
But you don't know if you make the right kind of eye contact.
Sure. You come in with that confidence.
She's going to date a drummer who drives a vintage car and lives at her place.
So, but they
can't be denied, those drummers.
Yeah, they can't be denied.
They really can't. They're the most powerful.
They don't, let me guess, they do not do the opposite. There's no like muscle dudes that they pay, no hot muscle dudes they pay to dress up like Superman, right? For any of the Comic-Con ladies?
That would upset the nerds.
That's the patriarchy at work, you guys.
Because there's no Comic-Con ladies.
What are those things? Abdominal muscles. No, I don't have those. Actually, you do.
They're under there.
Yeah, what about some eye candy for the nerd ladies? Equality, am I right, guys?
Yeah. How about you put some equality in some high boots and fucking blow out?
I'm at Falcon's Lair Recording Studios. If the clouds could sing, they'd be humming the Perry Mason theme. It's so perfectly mid-60s here in the house. And I'm joined by two estimable guests. One, an old friend, and
an old man. That was unnecessary, but it felt right. It felt right. I'm sorry.
Two old men and a new friend. Comedian, actor, writer, director, triple threat.
That's a new Bruce Helford sitcom. Two old men and what she said. Oh, this is the sound of my voice.
Yeah, Bob Goldthwait is here.
Bobcat Goldthwait. Bob Scratch Goldfarb.
Bob
That's
Scratch
me.
Goldfarb is here, and a very funny comedian who actually has a show with Bob at the Improv Lab called Crab Apples.
Indeed,
and a very funny writer as well. You've seen her on Viceland. Caitlin Gill is with us.
This is the sound of my voice.
Yes.
It's pretty easy to tell you two apart. One of you is a chick.
Yes. I am a biological woman.
Yes, you are.
A human woman.
I have evidence. We're roommates.
We're roommates.
Right.
Yes, but not the sexy
not
kind.
The sexy kind of roommates.
No.
More the Jack Tripper kind of roommates.
Yeah, that would be a really accurate portrayal.
It is actually. Yeah. We keep saying we couldn't make a sitcom about our house, but it's been done.
Yeah.
It's Five's company at the compound.
How many people are in your home?
At a given time?
Yeah.
I don't know if our landlord listens to your show. I doubt it. But if that's true, we only have one cat. If they are.
Yes, we have a cat. we have a dog.
We have There's Caitlin and her girlfriend Kelly live in the basement.
We live in the basement.
That sounds.
What do you like to say about that?
It's a nice room. It's a real room, but it does happen to exist under the house in a very basement-like area. The floor is cement, so I get to say it's a basement.
Right.
She likes to say that.
I do like to say that I live in the basement.
Of the police academy guy's house.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I live in the basement of the police academy guy's house. Yeah. Chase your dreams, everyone. It can happen to you, too.
I like to think of you as the Subterraneans.
Yes.
You're living a very Kerouacian.
Oh, yeah.
I wonder if his friends ever said this. Quit being so Kerouacian.
I'm poor and stoned. I'm Kerouacian, I guess.
Putting the wacky in Kerouac.
Oh, no. That was a pun, and I love puns, and I didn't like it.
So our other roommate, Mike Plant, he is in charge of selecting the shorts that go on at Sundance.
Oh, okay.
So it was a little dicey last year when he didn't take my short. It was little tension there. It's a little weird.
You're not going to take my short? I'm going to take your rice milk.
Yeah. Hey, you're late with your side of the electric bill.
Huh?
And then my daughter lives in the guest house, and she has a dog. And yeah, that's all of us. And then my girlfriend's over a lot, Nora. It's funny because this is Los Angeles people are always like, so, you an actress? She's like, I'm in insurance.
Yeah. No. Well, I like to say that I live here stultifyingly alone.
Well, but you got your children.
I have. No, I'm surrounded by life.
Nobody's alone with a pool.
Animals.
At least not as long as you want to be. I mean, you've got a.
It's like some sort of in the Isle of Dr. Moreau of tiny animals. You're breeding them to get smaller and smaller. Look at all of my dogs fit in this teaspoon.
And I had a big real dog. My dog Bella was a black lab border collie. It was great dog. Bella went to heaven.
It's that's the thing about your animals. They die, and it's horrible.
It's horrible.
That's why I have so many cats. Yeah, because I'm still trying to replace this one cat.
Both the dogs that we have now were a failed attempt to replace one dog.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I have a cat tattooed on my arm. So my devotion to pets now gone is
and I have
too
my
much.
Pet
You have your duck
Arnold, who died, and then I went and got other ducks after Arnold died. And
it doesn't work. Ducks.
I had a duck that was imprinted on me as a child and would follow me around. Like I wasn't adorable enough. I was this fat kid.
I just picture you in a sailor suit always.
Loved musicals and had a pet duck that waddled behind him at all times. And if a dog or if it was threatened, it flew and landed on my head.
Really?
Yeah. Arnold the duck, and it laid eggs.
Did you receive checks from the Morton Salt people?
Well, I named him after Arnold Ziffel.
Yeah, Natch.
Yeah, but I didn't know Arnold was a female, and then Arnold laid eggs. And my sister Sue still has I shouldn't have got the tattoo because it really brings a bad thing for her. Because Arnold was across the street, and she called him, and a truck hit Arnold beak first. It just
took him by the beak.
Press duck. It was long. I remember.
That's not funny, but I can see that as an opening scene in any one of your films. Like that is clearly an influential moment. If not for your whole family, then definitely for your filmmaking career.
Did you see it happen?
No, I saw the aftermath. But ducks almost get hit in Shakes the Clown.
Oh, you're right. Yeah.
Well, you're in Syracuse, right?
Yeah.
So it's a city.
Yeah. Well, I lived in a rural part of the town. My home that I grew up in was a farmhouse that the track housing bursted out all around us.
I got it. Yeah.
So my dad hated those people.
Yeah. I lived in a not dissimilar kind of
We have very similar lives. But so Catholic. But were you the youngest, or is it?
Yeah, well, really, I have 4 older brothers and 1 younger sister who was sort of like the family mascot. So I was definitely the runt.
Well, I was the baby of the family.
Yeah.
And whenever my mom would leave me alone with my sisters, which was often, since I was a baby, I would boom right into drag. I was always in a dress.
Did not have that option as a child.
Always in and my mother denied it, and my father had the home movies transferred. I'm in a dress. All of them. They're just me. And I would get laughs. I was comfortable
singing "Hey Big Spender."
Yeah. I mean, the Ed Wood connection too is no wonder.
Now it all makes sense. Mm-hmm. All my brothers and my dad, when I was growing up, and to this day, their passion is hunting.
Yeah,
and
mine
fishing
too.
And watching sports. And I have no interest in 3 things: hunting, fishing, and watching sports. And my father, and again, this is the 70s, couldn't reconcile that with me being straight. Like, really didn't understand that I didn't play sports, didn't want to hunt, but I liked girls. And
as if the forests are just thick with straight men. Every weekend, every straight man leaves their home.
What's straighter than just going out to a cabin with a bunch of dudes?
That was an old bit of mine. It's just like I would get picked on because I didn't hunt. Go, you're queer. And it'd be Like, yeah, I'm not going to get up at 5 a.m., go out in the middle of the woods watching the sun come up with a bunch of dudes in matching outfits, sharing from a thermos. Yeah. I'm the big Mary in this situation.
Do you remember Mike Donovan's joke about walking down the street and some guys drive by, hey, queer, because 5 guys in the VW calling me queer. I'm on my way to Sally's house to get blown. That was his thing. Who is Sally?
Sally. Oh, Sally.
I've never walked over anyone's house specifically to get blown.
Yeah.
Well, time to get blown.
I got to pencil in at 5.
I mean, at the very least, you're going to catch the bus. Walking's just not fast enough.
If I don't leave now,
all you have is your feet.
Yeah. I have a 4:30 hand job, so if you could get here at 5.
Yeah,
I wonder if that's what like Hugh Hefner's day planner was like in his heyday. Look, I'm meeting Lee Marvin for croquet, then I have a hand job, a blow job, and then I'm meeting James Caan for drinks. Can we get through this? Then I'm driving down to La Jolla to look at the new quadraphonic stereos.
I can't decide what I feel. I'm jealous. I'm mad. It's gross, and I love it. Like, I don't know how to feel about that scenario. I want that to exist. I just don't want to give him a hand job. I want him to be,
Hugh?
Yeah.
Well, he's now the crypt keeper with a boner. That's right. The great thing about Hugh Hefner now is it's just whatever kind of Baroque rituals are going on in the Playboy Mansion now, I want to know about it. And there is a book, April Richardson knows about it, that a Playboy Playmate wrote, and it's self-published. It wasn't sanctioned.
That's
with
so sad.
With the dirty...
Women just can't make it in this industry.
Yeah.
With the stories we have to tell.
It's literally
no
like,
one will let us tell them.
Tonight is sex night, and you get some baby oil, and you go in, and you take a ride, get off, somebody else comes in. It's just Howard Hughes, but with a boner. It's Howard Hughes and Viagra.
Oh, he's just
it's sad women instead of Ice Station Zebra.
I had my Uncle Don had a bunch of antiques, and
gets better.
And he left a bunch of his junk in the upstairs attic of our garage, and it always frosted my father's cake. That Don left us, and we were 10-year-old kids, and we'd sleep in that attic, and then all of a sudden, lo and behold, behind this pile of crap is this box of 68, 69 Playboys. And in my mind, it was like backlit, and there was a choir of angels. Like, when we found this. Yeah. And I was convinced that all genitals were white because all these women had tan lines. And it wasn't until I went to sleepover Catholic school camp.
Where you always learn a lot about genitalia.
When we had there was some urban youth that changed my mind on that all genitals weren't white.
Yeah, my dad, when I was a kid, had a subscription to Penthouse, which is
keeping it classy.
Sure. And it's not Playboy.
No, Penthouse gets down to business.
Yeah, it really, to paraphrase Barry Crimmins, cold cuts. At a certain point, it just looks like cold cuts.
Yeah, it's just a lot of vaginas, and it was all like Vaseline lens.
Yeah, a lot of Vaseline lens. Bob Guccione himself did a lot of the photography for Penthouse, as opposed to Playboy, who I remember, Pompeo Posar was the guy that did all of their photographs.
Of course it was.
But I never...
I know, of course it was.
But I never thought the Playboy culture or lifestyle or Hugh Hefner, even though he'd try to be this jazz beau who'd have Lenny Bruce on and stuff like that, I never thought it was cool. I really did even as a kid, I like looking at naked women, but I just kind of, as I got a little older, just the whole mentality made me cringe. I didn't envy him. Like, I went there, Shandling had a thing for Larry Sanders. It was the only time I was at the Playboy Mansion, and I remember the guys.
That is the most awkward combination of men I can imagine walking into the Playboy Mansion.
Yeah, and there's guys going, "Wow, there's the grotto," and I'm just like,
I went to the Playboy Mansion once, and you go in the grotto, and I quite literally just think of James Caan's jizz.
Yeah, you just envision scabs floating.
Yeah, just like it's what's the basketball player that he said he fucked 10,000 women a day.
Was it Wilt Chamberlain?
Yeah, Wilt Chamberlain. George Maher used to own his house. The Wilt Chamberlain fuck pad, famous Wilt Chamberlain 70s fuck pad that looked like Dr. No's house. George Maher and Maria Semple bought it, and we're in it. And I've been in it, and it is a crazy. There was one room that was just this circular room with a pillow floor and two-way. It was definitely some weird. But here's the crazy thing, because it was Wilt Chamberlain's house. All the toilets are like 4 feet off the ground.
Oh my God, this sounds like
he's
heaven.
Like 7 feet tall.
You would like
all
that?
All I want is an NBA player's bathroom.
You sit on the toilet and you look like you're Lily Tomlin in a rocking chair doing a laughing sketch.
Except that every time I sit on a normal toilet, I look like Elf. Like
I don't want to go a deep dive into the toilet thing, but you need your feet on the ground.
I have a squatty potty.
Your dream home.
Was it squatty potty? They're a great sponsor.
It's just you can't go to. Well, I'm saying is you can't shit in Wilt Chamberlain's house. That's what I had to get off my chest.
Squatty potty dumped, no pun intended, Kathy Griffin as a sponsor.
What's squatty potty?
It's this thing that just goes under your feet, so your
I've seen
legs are raised
squatting.
up,
Right.
and then
they didn't want to be associated.
Yeah, she's hurting our image.
Good Lord.
When that happened, my take was that Barron Trump was upset because he saw Kathy Griffin's image, which of her holding Trump's head, and I doubt that he's aware of what Kathy Griffin's up to,
I don't see how that.
I mean, it does seem like the house does have TVs on all the time, but I just imagine it's like poor Barron's upset. We're going to calm him down. We're going to take him to Shakespeare in the Park. He's just going to forget. Just like everything he goes to is someone's killing his dad.
In the Henry Cavill Superman, that first one he was in, when he came out of the ocean and walked up,
dude.
I
can't
literally
believe a person
pulled,
looks like that.
I was like that horny neighbor on Three's Company. I was just like, oh my God.
I was like
Mrs.
that in
Roper?
Batman versus Superman.
No, the one that used to make passes at Jack all the time. What was her name?
Wasn't that Mrs. Roper?
No. Well, she would do it in like an old lady way. But remember in the later seasons, she had dark hair, and Lana. She would come up and stand in the door, hi, Jack, and move her lips so much where you're like, you're just saying 2 words. You don't need to move your lip that much. And that's totally, I was like holding my chest like, what's this man coming out of the sea?
A person looks like that.
It's
there was a
nuts.
scene in Batman vs. Superman where he's like cooking breakfast in just his underwear, and I'm like, that's an animatronically made. That's not a real human being who looks like that.
And it's animatronically made by 4 gay guys.
Yes!
Because everything about him, his chest is wide, his waist is tiny.
The
his
most perfect butt chin.
His butt itself is the biggest butt on a man that isn't, there's no fatness or like weightlifting involved.
Yes.
Are we talking about the Ropers still? Are we talking about Norman Fell?
Have you seen Norman Fell's ass? It is a bubble butt.
Yeah, Henry Cavill is I'm like, how are you real? Like, you were made in a lab.
It's
no
nuts.
real person looks like that.
Is he Canadian?
He's English.
He's
so
English.
Is an English accent on top of all that.
But that's
shit.
what he's English and he has nice teeth.
I will
the
say
whole
this.
thing doesn't make sense.
After Batman versus Superman, which was atrocious, but I got home and was like, "What's this guy's deal?"
As
and
opposed to
Googled
Delish.
He's like he's dating like a 19-year-old.
Sure.
And he's like my age.
Of course.
So I was like,
Henry
"Oh,
Cavill?
you're gross." Yeah.
Yeah. Well, when you
Or
watch,
he's maybe younger. He's in his. He's like 35 or
let's say if you ever
36.
see,
Maybe.
it's 2 things. Like when Daniel Craig is in Casino Royale, and it's like, Jesus, it's like a shaved gorilla. It's like, how do you have those muscles? How do you do that? But the Three's Company is the epitome of like that is another thing that shows you how much our culture has changed in just a couple of decades. Like, it was a very successful show based on the premise that you think this guy is gay and he's not.
Right.
And that was the entire show. And every joke in the show was Mr. Roper making a Tinkerbell gesture.
Yeah, and rolling his eyes.
Yeah, because he thought this guy was gay, and that would be, of course, a human atrocity if he was.
Right.
Like the whole
God
thing.
forbid.
Right.
The whole
A human
thing.
atrocity.
The whole thing. And it was it was just that like when you were a kid watching game shows in the 70s, like you didn't realize that they were gay guys. They were just men who wore ascots.
Yeah, you like Paul Lynde and stuff.
Paul Lynde, Charles Nelson Riley.
Yeah.
Just rip people apart.
Confirmed bachelors.
Yes.
Yeah.
Confirmed bachelor.
Those bachelors are mean.
Yeah.
I know. They are. There's a lot of cat sand.
There's something about living alone for an older man that really makes you sharp-tongued and sharp-eyed.
Johnny Carson, it was this thing in the 70s where the derivative of gay guys, you called them Bruce. Mm-hmm. A couple guys, what's your name? Bruce.
Right.
And you listen to these, one of the networks runs these old Johnny Carson episodes, and you watch them, and it's like, send out to Malibu with a couple of guys named Bruce. And people, people just go insane.
Unbelievable. It just unified the entire country.
Yeah.
God. And that's like, what, 30 years ago?
Yeah, it was not that long ago. It was not that long ago.
Nearly yesterday.
Yeah, a couple of guys. In fact, when the TV show The Hulk was on, they changed his name to David Banner instead of Bruce Banner.
Because of that?
Because it could be Bruce. Because that would mean he was gay.
That's crazy.
Yeah, the gay Hulk. There's your show.
That is so crazy.
That would actually...
He wore purple pants.
That would be a huge... He wore purple capris that were fringed at the bottom.
Yes.
He wore fringed capris.
Like a furious swamp-stranded Mary Tyler Moore. When we were kids, we never realized that quicksand would not be as big of a problem.
Yeah, or anvils.
And lava would not be.
No lava.
No, it doesn't come into play. Hardly at all.
Yeah.
It's almost like cartoons did not prepare us for real life.
It's so weird. My favorite thing was, because we lived out in the country. So Channel 2, KTVU, was the only channel we got that had cartoons. So it went cartoons, which we didn't get to pick, and then it went straight into Star Trek. I've seen every Star Trek 5 times against my will. So I was not a fan of it.
That's the difference between you and I.
I know. But it's so hilarious to me that I get to be in that conversation and not a person that's like, I know, I'm so obsessed with it, where I'm just like, it was forced into me like Catholicism. I had to watch it.
For me, it was...
there's a lot of things. Catholicism forced a lot of things into a lot of kids.
For me, it was MASH. We had all cartoons, and then I knew as soon as the theme song to MASH, that is the sound of boredom.
Yeah.
Forever and ever to me. And I would flip the channel because I'm like, oh, it's adult time now. Yeah. This sucks.
MASH does not age well.
Does it not?
It does not. No, I watch a lot of MeTV.
Oh yeah,
because it's the shows. It's not the shows that were on TV when I was a kid. It's the shows that were in syndication when I was a kid. So it was the stuff that you watched after school and stuff. So it's mac and cheese.
Right.
It's just video comfort food. So I watch like Perry Mason and Star Trek and all of those things. And my daughter noticed, because she's a smart cookie, MeTV, it's like all the commercials are for like the walk-in bathtub.
Like, totally. The hover around.
Yeah, I guess so.
Where that lady's on the cliff. Like,
I'm finally free.
Yeah.
And my daughter goes, Dad, you watch a TV network where every commercial is for people that are getting ready to die.
God, totally. Getting ready to.
I posted a picture on the internet from the taping of the show where I was all beat up. And I posted it, and she commented, "You look like a 50-year-old divorced guy who lives alone with 2 dogs." Oh, God.
Wait, how old is she?
She's 14, and she's brutal.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
she's my hero.
Yeah, I'm really sorry that you can't meet her, because you guys are very spiritually connected.
Sounds like it.
Yeah, she's really sharp, and like a lot of stuff out of the side of her mouth.
The best way to talk.
Yeah, they're all great, but lose the sharp, funny one.
Mm-hmm.
And like a lot of underprivileged kids, right now she's in Thailand at an elephant sanctuary.
I thought he was joking when he said that. He's not joking. He's not joking.
No,
I know.
There's this thing called Rustic Pathways. It's like AmeriCorps, and these kids go to all over the place.
That's great.
All my kids are never mind. I'm going to get sad. All my kids are gone. I'm alone.
Oh my God.
Bring to the story I was going to tell. Last night I came home from doing a couple shows. And I was going to go to bed because I had a big day. I knew you guys were coming over.
Huge day.
Got to prepare.
And turned on the TV, turned on MeTV. Balance of Terror was on. The Star Trek episode that was inspired by the movie Run Silent, Run Deep. And I just just watched it.
Which one was that?
That's the one where they're fighting the Romulans. It's like a submarine movie. It's like the two ships battling each other.
Oh, okay.
Okay, listen. I'm going to need to... Okay.
Okay, listen.
Okay, so I keep saying her name. My best friend Millie lives here now. She moved here from Atlanta. She lives here. We are very...
Let's just examine what just happened. I'm a dude with two chicks. I started talking about Star Trek, and you changed the subject.
I'm not changing at all.
Insane.
Give her a chance.
I'm truly not, though, because we were sitting around and we're like, okay, and this is going to only come off mean. So
Great.
apologies to all the nerds listening.
I'm all for it.
And I also hang out with Hardwick all the time, right? King of the Nerds, super into Star Trek, Star Wars, all your stars, Trek and Wars. Yes. I don't get any of it. Me and Millie talk about this a lot because it's not even... It isn't even like cool versus uncool. Like, I don't think I'm cool, but I think I'm too dumb. Even as a kid...
I'm with you so far.
Even as a child, like we were talking about how I never read fiction. I never was interested in anything that took place in space. Well, space exists, but like in Lord of the Rings, whatever, anything that's like in a fake, I don't care about fantasy. I'm like, I got enough let's figure out these problems here on Earth. Even at 14, I'm like, I'm going to read real shit. Cause I didn't have the patience to be like, why do I need to figure out the lives of people that don't exist in a place that's fake? I don't. Like, I'm like, why?
You just discounted the entire New York Times review of books.
It's like, but then I would watch things. Even,
wait a minute, I want to get that straight because it's. Why do I say that again? Why do I have to care about?
Why am I trying to figure
out the lives of people who don't exist in a place that's fake?
Yeah. Yes.
April Richardson writing off the entirety of fiction,
which is so arrogant and dumb.
No, it's not.
It is. It totally is.
She doesn't like imagination.
I don't have a good one.
Let her have that.
Yeah.
But we were sitting down the other day trying to
go to the Wonka factory, and they were going, and Gene Wilder was.
I like Willy. I do like
Gene
Willy
Wilder
Wonka.
was singing to you about a world of pure imagination. You'd be like, bullshit.
She'd like, get me to that chocolate river and shut the fuck up.
Well, the thing is, when I was a kid, I pretended to like run my own business. That's what I did for fun. Like, I would make fake business cards and be like, I'm a business lady. Like, that was my idea of fun.
Yeah, all you wanted for your Christmas was a green eye shade.
Yes. It was so I get that I'm like the weirdo, but I have been lately, Millie and I were talking about, we should try to give these things a chance. Like, maybe let's watch. I've seen bits and pieces of Star Trek, but we're like, maybe we should like watch a full episode of it, or maybe we should watch like a whole Star Wars movie or whatever. But I guess I'm like, I'm so
Use
dumb. I don't know how to even describe it because
why
it's
do you
a
say
thing.
You're dumb. You're not dumb.
Because it isn't.
That's your parents talking.
To me,
and
escapism.
I pull them aside. I want to have a conversation with them first.
Because entertainment is, for the most part, for me at least, escape. You watch TV because you want to escape.
Yes.
Weirdly, I want to escape into real shit. So when I sit down and I'm like, I'm going to watch Star Trek, and then they start being like, hey, we got time travel, we got this. Like, it's like, oh, I got to solve math problems while I'm escaping? Like, no. Like, that's so, I feel so dumb. Because I'm like, I feel like they're asking me to try to figure out things where I'm like,
I think. But no one is into the things they're into more than you.
I know.
So
yeah, you just like the things you like. But also, I would say this. I think I could maybe either transfer this to a different point of view or surmise it for you. When we were growing up, Star Trek was for boys. So it was just that kind of thing of, I'm not supposed to be watching this. This isn't for me. But if it's on, I'm going to sit here as opposed to go in my room and do something good with my time. I'm going to watch TV no matter what.
Right.
So it was that kind of thing of like, oh, this is what they're interested in. And this is what they like. That's how I always looked at Star Trek, the game Risk, and Salami. Well, it's for boys. It's for boys.
Like, the Holy Trinity.
I don't like it, but they love it. So there must be something good happening here.
Even things like The Lord of the Rings, though, it's like, I remember I had to read The Hobbit in middle school for a school assignment. And I remember even being like, okay, I'm not into this anyway. But then I'm like, I gotta learn their fake language and their fake thing. I don't even know how to speak Spanish. And I gotta learn how to talk Hobbit language. Like, it's a fake thing. Like, what? I don't know.
My take on the whole Tolkien thing is the same as my take on Springsteen. It's like, I'm glad it exists. Mm-hmm. I appreciate that it's good.
Right.
I'm not gonna go down that alley. I'll if it's on, I'll listen to it. I won't turn it off.
Right.
But it doesn't do it. I bet he made that all up about Bear.
Of course.
It's like
my son saw that and he was upset. You know.
I think that his son's probably seen a lot more upsetting things, like the receipt for his mom.
Yeah. I mean, it's
the box she came in.
Yeah, the box his mom came in.
The thing is always, I had an old bit, but it was always like, what was I supposed to say to my children? What was I supposed to say to my kid? This is how dated this is, but it was when Janet Jackson exposed her breast on the Super Bowl.
The famous wardrobe malfunction.
Yeah. What was I supposed to say to my children? It's like, what you're supposed to say was, see that woman with her boob hanging out, don't go anywhere alone with her brother. That, you know, it's not our responsibility what you say to you know.
Yeah.
What was I supposed to do?
I mean, that whole thing, probably not the smartest idea in the world, but I think the reaction is a tad hysterical.
Yeah,
I would have given, if I was advising Kathy, I would have advised her to handle it differently. But look at, like, Bill Maher had to go, like, Bill Maher's show was on the verge of cancellation. It's like I read in the New York Times. It might not be true, but he had to have a public apology and then an episode about it. But what I find strange is, so he says the N-word and people immediately, his show must be canceled. Like, that was the cry. It's like,
right.
We have no other vehicle in our public discourse to express dissatisfaction with something, then it must be deleted from the world. You know, really? Does it have to be canceled?
Well, Kathy's thing, there's more people that make products out of being outraged now than ever.
It's a giant business.
It's just being outraged.
Yeah.
And she was part of the news cycle for maybe 4 days instead of 24 hours.
Right.
And it's on both sides, you know, the things that people, this faux anger, and it's just another part of this distraction while the country crumbles.
Yeah, I agree with you completely. And people talk about, like, we're at maximum television now.
I don't know what that term means, but
just like there's
certainly not maximum representation.
I wish Larry Wilmore's show was on HBO because it would still be on.
I agree.
You know, there's not a lot on Comedy Central that I applaud.
As influential as it was in my youth, I don't spend a lot of time watching it anymore. I say, really hoping that they'd like to take a meeting at any time.
Right, but I don't know what's even on Comedy Central. I guess Amy Schumer, right?
I think Amy Schumer's great. Broad City is really good.
Comedy Central is not, you know, the audience that they're trying to carve out
are in a dorm or watching in a dorm on a laptop.
And it's never been an audience that I cared about or pursued. You know, I worked on Chappelle's show and Dave's not crazy. Before I even left that show, because I went and worked on something else, because I've always got a really good instinct career-wise. So I worked with Dave, and people would say, "What are you thinking?" It was way before that happened that he left. I said, "I could see him quitting because they would micromanage him." And I think it was, I don't know why, it was bananas. You know, it was really strange. You know,
it used to be the smaller fish you were with, the more micromanagement you dealt with because people were playing at being executives.
Mm-hmm. Right.
I find now at IFC, they're just like, we'll give you a small budget and you can do what you want and we'll leave you alone. And they do.
What's your note process? Do they see cuts and do they
and they give notes? And I have to say, their notes are really good.
Yeah,
notes can be good.
Yeah.
A lot of times I think the biggest problem I had was I didn't get enough notes on this script.
The first kind of indie movie that I made, that like, there was a movie I shot with a crew from Craigslist and for $20,000. And it went to Sundance. And it was called Sleeping Dogs Lie. It was called Stay, which is a better name. So somebody gave me notes on that, and I put peanut butter on the notes. Gave me physical notes on a yellow legal pad, and I put peanut butter on the notes, and then just gave it to this saint. No, it was a German Shepherd that was in the editing bay, and just let him eat the notes. Took a photo of it on my phone and sent it to him.
Who gave you the notes?
It was this guy that was working on the movie with us, and I was like, I don't want notes. I mean, that's why I'm doing a movie with a crew from Craigslist. So maybe I'm not good with notes.
No, it really,
The collaborative spirit really shines.
It really depends. What's great is, like, sometimes, like, I wrote a script and it was flashbacks to something that was going to happen in the future. And there was also a dream sequence. And as I said, with Christopher Nolan and $200 million, I would have nailed it.
Yeah.
But I didn't have those things, and it turned out to be a wet knot. It just was very confusing. And it was just very confusing. And they were like, this needs a lot of narrative help. And I'm like, Yes, it does. And, I had a really great editor, and we cleaned it up and took it apart and put it back together again. But it was a great note. Like somebody says, I'm seeing this for the first time and it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
You need that sometimes.
I'll show cuts of things I'm working on with friends and people I trust. Yeah. Mostly to see if things are landing, if they're laughing or if they're scared or they like it. The first things out of their mouth are usually the valid ones. They say, I didn't get, why did the thing and the that and the that? But when people feel that there's pressure on them to come up with solutions and stuff, that usually doesn't go
right. It's better to get notes from people whose job is not to give notes, because a lot of times people think, well, I have to give notes or I won't have a desk. I talked at the meeting. But I have to say, I'm just on record, my experience with IFC has been great.
You know what's funny?
You should have heard what he said before we started recording.
Yeah.
Woof!
No, I'm sure one day they'll cancel the show and I'll hate them.
Here's an interesting thing. When we were talking about Chappelle, I have a story about working on the show, and I didn't say it because of the climate that we're in. And I'm going to say it, and unfortunately I won't use the words. And it was the white Comedy Central executives came to the set and they said, Bobcat, could you ask Dave not to say the N-word anymore? But they didn't say N-word, because that term makes me cringe.
Right.
But I understand.
The term the N-word.
Yeah, because it's usually white racists that use that word.
Yeah.
Just because they want to get away with it, But they didn't use that word. And I said, Dave, the Comedy Central executives would prefer if you didn't use the N-word, but I didn't say that. I said the word they were using. And Dave's like, Bobcat, pshaw, So it's weird because, that was an example of those people at the time chasing Dave off of a successful show. Mm-hmm. And I don't feel like I'm suffering because I can't use the words that were in the story. But I can't believe all these years after Lenny Bruce, we're still getting hung up on the semantics of language and not the intent. If you're using a word to minimize an entire culture or to hurt people, that's a bad, ugly word. But it's weird that where someone could take a soundbite from your show and it's a tweet, and now I'm, And
I said the N-word on my last special.
Yeah.
But I said it in reference to a bit about the phrase the N-word.
Right.
Because people are now using the phrase the R word and equating that with the N-word and the C word. And it was about that. And
I need a coder
and
ring.
And then I said all three of them.
And was there any fallout?
No. And I think it was one, I'm just not that big of a fish. And the other one is, it was
no, because you are, because everybody wants to hurt, and some would be happy if they got you mad on Twitter or attacked you.
Sure. The weirdest attack that I got on Twitter was,
I read a tweet the other day where a thing that really not bothers me, but just makes me feel, and that's why I really stay away from social media. I'm on Instagram and stuff, but if I ego surf my name on Twitter or something, or this is the thing, I don't mind you make a joke about me and use me as a punchline, but when you use my handle to put me in the joke.
Right. And then it splashes on you.
And it's just like, it's like dummies lazy writing. They'll be like, when I have a GPS, I want it to sound like Bobcat Goldthwait, those kind of jokes all the time. And I read it and I go, oh, there's people.
You just sound like you had a scared passenger in your car the whole time. Turn right.
But I'm going, oh, you mean you're talking about the voice that I jettisoned about 15 years ago, and clearly you're aware of my directing canon. And so I see that kind of stuff. But somebody the other day wrote, he goes, you guys have got to realize that Bobcat Goldthwait doesn't do that voice anymore, hasn't done it in years. He's just a cunt. And I was reading it, and I was like, hey, right on, this guy's got my back. And then I go, he's got a point.
Springsteen, for me, is kind of ruined because he was beloved by the people in high school I hated.
Right. Yeah. Isn't that the irony of it? Like the people that would beat you up liked him even though he was all like, yo, I'm for the farmers and everyman. And they're like, shut up, fag, and like would beat you up. But then Tunnel of Love comes out and you're like, this is one of the best things I've ever heard. So it's clear it's not, I don't know. I always thought the same thing where I'm like, I don't want to.
Is that the one where he's in the bolo tie? on the cover?
Yes.
Yeah. Well,
I thought you were going to say, is that the one where he's in the boat?
That's an interesting. That's Springsteen's boat album.
He's in a boat in a tunnel of love.
He's in a boat singing about cars. No,
and New Jersey.
Tunnel of Love. I only know this because that was the album he made after he got married to a supermodel, and the single off that album is called "Trapped." Honey, I wrote a song.
Yeah.
What's it called? It's a good song.
You like it?
Yeah. It was like we always used to talk about. Who's the guy in Ned Beatty in Deliverance when he gets butt fucked? I would just imagine his agent calling, Ned, how's it going? Pretty good. I'm on my way to Mississippi to start shooting. Great. There's some new pages. You'll get them on set. It's a love scene, sort of.
I was going to say this too but going back to those things that everyone liked that you weren't interested in, or
I brought up Ned Beatty getting butt raped, and you're changing the subject.
I'm not going to go there. That's my passive resistance toward your bit about Ned Beatty. We were talking the other night about the Phantom Toll Booth thingy, that book, The Phantom Toll Booth Operator.
Yeah.
Edwin and the Phantom Toll Booth. What's it called?
It's a thing. I know.
But my friend, I would think it was Lizzie Cooperman, and she was like, I loved that book. Didn't you love that book growing up? And I go,
she's funny.
She's the funniest. I go, that book gave me so much anxiety. Where were they? Where were their parents? Why wasn't there's no world around them? What city is this in? I started that book and had to put it down. It freaked me out so bad. But everyone I was in school with loved it. So I just went, I have to look at that.
I remember seeing any movie when I was a kid, a movie where kids would get lost, for a prolonged period of time, and their parents were like, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah.
It's The Great Pumpkin. Is
where they're just out walking around.
Or Linus is sleeping in a pumpkin patch.
And he's cold.
And Halloween night, where are the parents?
I feel like there was this movie I was obsessed with as a kid called Savannah Smiles. Have either of you seen it? You guys were, I was like a kid, and it was about a girl named Savannah who gets kidnapped by these dudes.
Who smiles?
But yeah, I forget exactly. I watched it all the time as a kid, but I haven't seen it since I was a child. But
is that the girl with the curly hair from the Pepsi commercial?
No, that's Curly Sue.
Okay.
But this lady.
With James Belushi.
Yeah, this girl, she was a girl my age at the time the movie came out, and they kidnap her. And so at first you're like, oh, that's scary. But then something happened. I don't know why. It was two bozos. It was the guys from Home Alone where they're inept kid. They weren't evil.
It was fun kidnapping.
Yeah. And that's the thing is they ended up letting her eat ice cream all the time and kick it. And I'm like, I want to get kidnapped. I remember saying that all the time, being like, please, someone kidnap me. It means you get to eat ice cream all day long. Yeah, I was obsessed with that movie.
That's not good content for
kidnapping. Kidnapping was a really again like lava and quicksand. It was
Yes.
It was a thing that you
there were a lot
really
of yes.
And I remember being aware of the possibility of getting kidnapped.
Yeah.
And one time in my childhood, I was walking home through the cemetery, as I had to do. That was the way to go. I lived on Cemetery Street.
Oh, fun.
That really was the name of your street?
Yeah, 9 Cemetery Street. That was my address as a child.
That is so Stephen King.
Yeah. There's a picture of the intersection on that stand behind you. I lived on the corner of Cemetery and Hope.
Oh, my God.
Ironic.
How are you a comedian?
Yeah, I know.
That's so amazing.
But I was walking through the cemetery, and a car saw me. It was parked and peeled out after me.
Oh.
And I took off. And I have no idea if I would have gotten kidnapped or if it was just let's scare this kid.
Right.
Or I'm sad about my dead husband. Oh, I have to pee. I don't know. My tears are coming out my bladder. I don't know what it was.
That's crazy.
But
Did you tell your parents? Did you run home and were you like...
I forget. For that part, I forget. But I remember running back to my friend's house where I was walking home from.
Right.
It was just like... Ah!
That's crazy. So, but it wasn't a van. It wasn't a white van with no windows.
No, but it was a.
Did you see who was driving? Was it a man or woman?
No, I didn't see it. It was far away. But I did. That did happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Prove it.
Yeah. What's their license plate number?
I made it up.
Pixar didn't happen.
No, that's
That'd
crazy.
be a terrible thing to say to the police to say when you're reporting a crime.
Yeah.
Picture didn't happen.
As a child. You're 9. You're like, I think someone tried to attack me.
Picture didn't happen. Get out.
Quit bragging.
Yeah, no, it was
Remember
really
those
crazy.
stickers people would get to put on their front window that said safe house? And it was during that kidnapping, like, awareness milk carton era of the early 80s, where people could join some kind of a club or group. I don't know where it emanated
for kidnapped
from.
children or Eldridge Cleaver.
It was
And it's also like anyone could get that. So it's like, yeah, kids come into my house.
Exactly right.
Yes.
So it was like, at first I was like, that's such a nice idea. You could, that's
Come
the
in,
house
kids.
you
My
run
name
to.
is Dr. Toesucker.
Pay your dues. Do you want to be safe?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Horrifying. Everything's horrifying.
Yes.
Yeah, everything is horrifying, and all your childhood heroes are weird.
Yes.
And people
True.
are weird.
Yeah. The only person I hate more than myself is everybody else.
Have I ever told you the story of the time that my dad, I was like
And
probably
you grew up in the East Bay of
the North Bay of Northern California.
where was that?
Petaluma is like 30 minutes
Oh, yeah,
north
you grew up
of
in
San
Petaluma,
Francisco.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's gorgeous.
It's beautiful and amazing.
Yeah.
I was very lucky.
Tom Waits lives outside of Petaluma.
That's exactly right. Where Tom Waits lives now is where I grew up. So it's like you go 5 miles outside of the city, no pizza delivery, no cable TV. It's like like cattle ranches and
Right.
open pastures. It's very lovely.
What do you think he does all day?
I think he plays a rusty haunted piano in a barn.
Gargles rocks
Yeah.
all day.
Haunted piano in a bar. I think you're right.
I think he shoots the side of a barn and then writes a song about the sound he hears. But
I love. Okay, go ahead, and then I'll go on my Tom Waits jag.
wait, I was going to tell, what was the story I was starting?
You were talking about. You were telling a story. Did I ever tell you the story when I was a kid?
It's something to do with your dad, I think.
Your father.
Yes, here it is. When I was 7, I used to have to go to Kaiser twice a week to get allergy shots because I had really, really bad asthma and allergies. And one time my dad and I pulled up in front of the Safeway that was right there in Terra Linda where the Kaiser Hospital was, and he left me outside while he ran in to get changed for the newspaper machine. I don't know why that was his thinking, but he leaves me there at 7 a.m. So I'm just standing next to a newspaper machine, and an old hobo walks up who is shit-faced drunk, and he truly looks like he's from Central Casting.
Right.
Like all of his clothes are all raggedy.
Like striped socks.
Yeah, and a weird hat tilted to the side,
Bindle.
dirty face. Yes,
Yeah.
exactly, like scraggly beard. And he doesn't even see me, reaches into his pocket and pulls out like pennies, maybe 1 quarter, and a broken blue crayon. And he's staring at it like weaving because he's shit-faced. So I start staring at it because I'm like, where'd he get that crayon? Like, I'm just thinking, like, what is happening here? And then we both look up at each other at the same time, and he goes, "What are you looking at, asshole?" He called you an asshole. And I was like, oh my God. And then all of a sudden he was just flying through the air. And what had happened was my father had come back out to get a newspaper, but that's why he went in to get change. And he heard this guy call me an asshole and just kicked him in the ass. No. So the guy like basically kind of flew and then, landed and turned around. I was like, "I'm calling the cops," and all this shit. My dad's like, "Yeah, right. Call the cops." And then walked to the car and I was like, "Dad, we're going to get in trouble." And he's like, No, we're not.
See, if your life was a David Lynch movie, that hobo would have touched your shoulder and you would have turned into Balthazar Getty.
Damn it. Dad kicked him square in the ass.
Kicked him in the ass. Yeah. Yes. Which now would be like there would be a major police event around that, but it was 1977.
You're not
so
the
it was
first
just like,
hobo I've kicked. Your dad was a Pinkerton, is what you're saying.
Amazing. That is
And stay out of my boxcars.
for real. He has the mustache. He really did lived that Pinkerton lifestyle.
I love it.
It was kind of amazing.
All you need to ride is a good tail.
That is so rad.
I'll use that language. I'll have characters in a movie say them and stuff. And I don't ever, or a little bit, but I don't catch flack.
Well, I know the woman, Frances McDormand in 3 Billboards says, or whatever the name of that movie is.
Oh, yeah.
Calls a woman just fucking retard, which you can't do. So it's like, this movie has all the trimmings of indie fave.
But it certainly tells you something about the character that does it. You can, of course, nobody's like taking that away from anybody else, but there's essentially like a word that we should be very careful with.
Sure.
And nobody says you can't use it. And I understand the N-word is a very dumb phrase and a way to talk about it, but it is funny to me. That frustration. This is where we choose to be sad about the absence of free speech. Really?
Right.
Not in our greater media, not in the fact, like, the other side of free speech on Twitter is that we're laughing about bad jokes. I've regularly been told I should be raped in the face. Like, that asking a woman to go online, and I get this in, like, from anybody I'm working with, professionally, representatives or whatever, always encourage a social media presence. It's like, you're talking to a woman. You do realize that you're asking me to wade into, like, shallow seas of sharks who just spit rape cunt at you. That's just constant.
Right.
Jesus.
It's
See,
always.
I don't spend that much time on Twitter.
I don't either. And it's whenever my name comes up in something else. It's whenever I do something with a bro-y audience that I wind up getting like.
No, Emma Arnold fights a lot of those battles. She's a real scrapper.
And we've talked about this extensively about what it's like just existing on the internet is so obnoxious. Straying from the point that nobody took those words away, and when you use them to effect and when you punch up like a good joke does, there's no flack to catch.
It's gotten to the point for me that I don't want to weigh in on anything.
Yeah, I agree.
I really don't want to weigh in because I don't want to, honestly, because I don't know what it's like being a woman. So if I write or say something defending a woman, even that I'll get in trouble for. Oh, that's great. White guy telling me about that. And I'm like, hey, man, I'm just out. Hey, everybody, have fun.
It is a real thing on the left that there's this extra judgy call-out culture is counterproductive. It doesn't grow a movement. It doesn't help anybody come to new realizations or come to terms with past beliefs that they'd like to change. Anytime you make somebody defensive, you isolate them from any positive message you're trying to give them, so it's totally ineffective. It's a bad idea. Yeah.
But there are people I do want to isolate. Like, I do want to insult. Like, on my Instagram or Twitters and stuff, it's like, occasionally I'll just retweet something, or if I show up at a march or something and I post it, I'll have a lot of people upset with me, but I kind of go, I'm not supporting Trump. I'm not debating. I don't care. I just don't want you as a fan. Like in America, that's like you. Sure, and you don't want us as a fan.
But then you go to the Milo Yiannopoulos of it all, where you're like, he's a intellectual troglodyte and a moral dwarf. But the best way to handle that is with, I think, just don't pay attention to him. Don't ban him from Berkeley. Let him speak and don't go. At a certain point, that's the business he's in. Ann Coulter was in that business, and then they get tired of it, and somebody new comes along.
I feel that people get really confused about how...
I know he's done harm to people.
But I mean, I feel that how free speech works. It's like, if I, as Bobcat Goldthwait says something, I have that right. And if it's libel, or if it's untrue, or if it's inciting violence on something, there's laws in that.
Free speech does not mean you can say anything you want.
Right. Yes. But I've always have a problem when a wacky morning DJ goes over the line and maybe didn't even step on any of those boundaries I just said. And sponsors say, hey, we don't like you, or the company that you work for says, hey, watch your mouth. And then all these fans rally behind, oh, freedom of speech is being infringed on. It's like, you invite that douche to Berkeley, people at Berkeley are going to be mad, but he's getting paid. People can weigh in on that. It's not like people were stopping him from standing up in a public forum and saying what he wants. There's money being exchanged. There's all this stuff. So I don't feel his rights are being infringed on and stuff. Whenever there's like a protest or something, Caitlin's been to a million protests, but Caitlin and I've been to some protests, and you see this like amazing kind of thing going on at a protest. When you actually see the cops stopping traffic. So the protesters come through, and the protesters say thanks to the cops, and the cops wave and smile. Is that a news story? No.
Right.
The knuckleheads that smash up things as if the Lakers just won.
Right.
That's a news story. And then I listen to the radio, and they're like, what are these people trying to prove? And it's like, and I say, I don't protest to change you. I protest because it changes me. It feels good, to know I'm not alone, Yeah.
I was listening to this thing. Michael Moore was pimping out his Broadway show, and he goes, we're going to take Trump down with satire. No, you're not. That doesn't do anything but put money in your pocket.
It's what you said off the air.
Satire's never taken down a dictator. Not that Trump's a dictator.
If someone's crazy, you can't fight them.
No, you can't fight crazy.
Oh, yeah.
And
getting angry at crazy is useless.
Yeah. Getting angry at crazy is useless, and satire is not a weapon. It's just a signpost.
It is a signpost, a valuable one to look back on. It's you always see great satire at a turning point where we took the wrong turn. just as things were truly just reaching the point where we couldn't turn back, there's a flurry of great art comes out about what just happened and how we did it wrong.
Yeah.
But it doesn't fix it. It doesn't change anything. And those protests are sanctioned. We're on the route we're supposed to be on, and cops protect you there. It's when you're protesting cops that it becomes a problem. And the last couple of years have been so complicated, because I have been going to protests my whole life. When I was like 7, when there was so much conflict in El Salvador, and my mom tied a little black armband on my little tiny shirt, on my little tiny arm, and then sent me out to school. Explain to the kids what it's about, honey.
You know, it's so
my friend Casey has the other version of that, where when she was a little girl, she has photos of her at 5 outside of Planned Parenthood with posters that you're going to burn in hell, because her dad would take the kids to go. It's so good.
What a great album of
Either
memories.
way, yeah, I know. I go, you got to write a book.
Either
That's
way,
the
it
cover.
shapes your
you know what's
perceptions
really
in the
great, just for
future.
the confusing aspect of it, is get a 5-year-old kid outside of Planned Parenthood with a sign that says, "I was aborted and I'm fine."
Yeah. Well, I was saying that
I'm constructed from sold parts purchased right here at this Planned Parenthood.
Well, and the people screaming at people who might just be going in for pap smear, dress in a clown suit if you're going to have an abortion, because then at least those people screaming at you are screaming at a clown. It's just a good photo op, you know. I'm just here to entertain the kids. I mean, never mind.
Laughter's contagious. I'm just here to entertain the kids.
I learned by going to protests and then putting photos of me on Instagram that a lot of people who like Police Academy like Trump. It's the same audience.
Sure.
Same audience. Although Bill Clinton said he liked Police Academy, which is really weird. So, Bill Clinton mentioned it at the DNC convention, watching Police Academy with Chelsea.
That's fantastic.
And then she mentioned it the following night.
It truly is what every dad does for 2 hours when they're not sure what to say to their daughters.
Yeah,
but it's so creepy. The first was it's not a hard R, but it's not the most progressive female film you could watch. Oh,
and you know, it's so funny. I watched Clue with Colleen Camp last night.
That's one of my favorite films.
Clue. I'd never seen Clue before. Clue's fantastic.
Isn't it great?
You watched it with her, or that she was in it?
She's in it. She's in it.
Tim
But I
Curry
did
and
act
Alan
with
Kahn.
her in Mob City.
I'm glad you loved Clue. I can talk definitively about my opinion on Clue. I have lost all mooring in terms of my political opinions. After the election, I was a comfortable progressive for so long, middle of the road progressive. And this election is like, I'm pretty sure I need to start a farm and learn how to shoot guns. I just don't know.
Middle of the road progressive. I'm middle road progressive.
I was a wholehearted Hillary supporter.
You're way more left than me.
I never dipped over to the Bernie side for a long list of reasons, but most of them were very comfortable, everyday progressive, things are going to be fine in the long run sort of perspective. When all around me, people who were suffering are like, patience is killing us. Like, long run doesn't help us now.
I read a really interesting thing. Somebody goes, you know, a lot of progressives really need to take the time to understand the people who voted for Trump. And I like to say, the people who voted for Trump really need to take the time to understand me.
Yeah.
You know?
I'm past resist. I'm more revolution.
Yeah.
These are the times, like, seriously though, Megan made a joke about something. She goes, oh, well, when are you going to get a gun? I go, oh, I have 2 guns. I'm going to be the progressive that lives.
Yeah.
Everybody's going to come over to my house. I'm trying to figure me out. I'm a progressive, agnostic, gun owner, and vegan.
Yeah.
I'm not against killing animals. I just don't want to eat them.
Yeah.
No, I know you didn't say that.
I love
stopped
animals.
eating fish because you fell in love with fish in a hotel pool.
Yeah,
you were not cool with killing animals.
No, they were at they were in the lobby. These carp, they come over and say hi to me in the morning. That and Mr. Limpid.
Yeah,
I've lost mooring politically, not in a bad way. I'll lie in somewhere. I'll be able to articulate what I think and feel soon. But everything changed. Everything changed in November.
But you and Kelly the night of the election, Kelly went into a spiral.
Yeah.
You guys, this depression. And I'm like, good people are going to rally and we're going to show people what it was like in the 60s because now we had a common enemy.
The 20-year-olds in the 60s who were marching definitely weren't the 40-year-olds in the 80s voting for fucking Reagan. Like, no, it just ends.
But then
they were marching because they didn't want to get drafted.
That's true. That's
period.
True.
End of
that's
story.
Absolutely true.
And then the war went on a long time after the draft was stopped, but the protests really went down because self-interest is what drives these things, and self-interest is what eventually is going to undo all of this stuff.
That's very true.
But it's a self-correcting system that is driven by self-interest.
I handle chaos really well.
You're like me. Serenity I cannot handle, but chaos.
I handle chaos really well.
Yeah.
But then 2 weeks later, I was on the kitchen floor and couldn't get up.
Yeah.
Tears in my eyes. And
I had gotten a dog and started jogging.
Caitlin's playing bunny rabbit videos on her phone next to my head. And they put a pillow on my head.
It's coming. Here it comes. It's intermission time. Time to visit our concession stand.
Casper is an online retailer of premium mattresses for a fraction of the average price. Casper is revolutionizing the mattress industry by cutting the cost of dealing with resellers and showrooms and passing that savings directly to the consumer. Designed, developed, and assembled in the USA, Casper is an obsessively engineered mattress at a shockingly fair price. With over 20,000 reviews and an average of 4.8 stars, it's quickly becoming the internet's favorite mattress. It combines memory foams to create an award-winning sleep surface with just the right sink and just the right bounce. And all Casper mattresses are made in America. An award-winning mattress that won't disappoint. Try Casper for 100 nights, risk-free in your own home. If you don't love it, they'll pick it up and refund you everything. Free shipping and returns to the U.S. and Canada. Get $50 towards any mattress purchase by visiting Casper.com/Dana and using the promo code Dana.
Make sure you get yours and enjoy it now.
My parents excelled at appearances. They were a great-looking, cheap couple, along the lines of Robert Mitchum and Rita Hayworth in Macau. They stayed together for 15 years. It had to be the sex. He was 17 years her senior. He was tall and built like a light heavyweight. He was drop-dead handsome and possessed a massive wang. So writes James Ellroy of his parents in his part autobiography, part cold case crime investigation, My Dark Places. Armand Ellroy and Geneva Hilliker met in the late 1930s, moved to Los Angeles and got married. She was a nurse, and he was an accountant, and for a while worked as Rita Hayworth's business manager, handling, among other things, the details of her marriage to Ali Khan in 1949. James was born in 1948. Rita Hayworth fired his dad in 1952 when he was 4. Armand Ellroy taught James to read when he was only 3.5 years old, and the two spent their days sitting side by side on the couch of their West Hollywood apartment while Geneva worked as a nurse. When James Ellroy was 6 years old, his mother sat him down and told him that she was divorcing his father. He was not happy and sulked for weeks, until Geneva whacked him across the head and told him to knock it off. James Ellroy fumed and decided to form an inseparable bond with his dad, who he only saw on weekends in a little bachelor apartment nearby. Armand Ellroy did exactly what you are not supposed to do in a divorce. He put his child in the middle of his broken relationship with his ex-wife. Armand Ellroy began to poison James Ellroy's mind towards his mother, calling her a drunk and a whore, and telling James to spy on her in hopes he could find some dirt that would help him gain custody. James was all on board, and you can't blame him. When one parent acts like an adult and the other acts like a child, an actual child is probably going to gravitate towards the other child. According to James Ellroy, his parents stopped speaking altogether and spoke of each other always negatively and always through him. Your dad's a weakling. Your mom's a whore. He was 9 years old. A short time after the divorce, James' mother moved him out of Los Angeles to the town of El Monte, 40 minutes east of L.A. in the San Gabriel Valley. James' father, still in L.A., called El Monte Shitsville, USA. James hated it. He did not know why his mother moved there. He never would. James spent the weeks in El Monte, hating his mother, and the weekends in L.A. with his dad, being encouraged to hate his mother. Sunday, June 22nd, 1958. 10-year-old James Ellroy is in Los Angeles wrapping up a weekend with his dad, hanging out, going to the movies, reading paperback books.
My dad took me back to El Monte on the bus from the downtown LA bus depot. Put me in a cab at the depot. When the cab pulled up in front of the pad there where I lived with my mother that hot Sunday afternoon, cops all over the place. And I knew immediately, before anyone said anything, that she was dead. This is not a retrospectively revised memory. This is the fucking truth. Got out of the car. Someone said, "There's the kid." Walked into the yard. Cop squatted down, said, "Son, your mother's been killed." And she had been murdered.
Geneva Hilliker Ellroy had been found in some bushes by some kids taking a shortcut home behind Arroyo High School in El Monte. She had been strangled with her own pantyhose. Her killer would never be found. James moved back to Los Angeles to live with his dad. They lived in an apartment building at Beverly Boulevard and Irving Place, adjacent to LA's high-end Hancock Park neighborhood. James' father gave his pre-adolescent son freedom. Too much freedom. Way too much freedom. 10, 11, and 12-year-old kids need boundaries. James was free to roam. Within a year, he was prowling Hancock Park late at night, watching girls through windows, breaking in when there was nobody home.
Nobody had answering machines. There were no computers. You have the phone number, you call. It rings and rings. Nobody answers. It's yours. Pet doors, like that, you reach in, inside latch. Windows secured by window latches, little hooks and eyes, pop out and in. Medicine cabinets, panty drawers. I broke into houses in the manner I just described 17, 18, 20, 21, 23 times, tops, from late 66 to the summer of 69.
He was a broken kid with a big hole in the middle of his psyche in the shape of his dead mom. But he couldn't confront it directly. Wouldn't confront it directly for decades. But his dad gave him a book, The Badge. A Valentine to the Los Angeles Police Department, written by their Hollywood face and number one fanboy, Jack Webb. The Badge is a quick and nasty primer on the LAPD's greatest hits. The Club Mecca firebombing. Donald Basher, a 2-bit B&E artist who panicked and killed some witnesses. He sucked fumes in the gas chamber in October of '57. But the centerpiece of the book, the centerpiece of L.A. crime, at least its unsolved murder division before O.J., was the Black Dahlia. On January 15th, 1947, a woman named Elizabeth Short, who'd been reported missing for some 3 or 4 days, was found lying in the weeds at 39th and Norton in the Los Angeles neighborhood of South Central. Her body had been horribly mutilated, so much so that the original name given to the crime in the LA newspapers was the Werewolf Murder. But soon the Los Angeles Examiner, a Hearst newspaper, and its reporter, a guy named Bevo Means, coined the name the Black Dahlia, a play on the Alan Ladd Veronica Lake film The Blue Dahlia, which came out the previous year. Fun fact. Rumor has it that when the LA Examiner learned of Elizabeth Short's identity, they called her mother, Phoebe Short, and informed her that her daughter had won a beauty contest, and could they please help them fill in some biographical information. Once the paper got what they needed, they informed her that, actually, her daughter had been murdered. Thanks for the info. Like the murder of Geneva Hilliker Ellroy, Elizabeth Short's killer was never found. But in Elizabeth Short, young James Ellroy was able to confront his feelings for his mother, if by proxy. And so he spent his unsupervised youth peeping into windows in Hancock Park, barely attending Fairfax High School, reading crime novels alongside his dad on the couch, and fantasizing about the love of his life, a woman he'd never met, never knew, who'd been found cut in half in a vacant lot the year before he was born.
I went to a high school that was 99% Jewish. I did absolutely nothing well. The only way I stood out is that I wasn't Jewish, so I became a Nazi and got beat up a great deal.
You became a Nazi?
I was a Nazi at a Jewish high school, and I never believed in Nazism for 1 minute, but I craved attention, and I was the poster boy for the If You Can't Love Me, Notice Me chapter in every child psychology textbook.
One day in 1963, James Ellroy came home from school to find his father sitting in a puddle of his own making. He was weeping and babbling. He'd had a massive stroke. He survived and recovered, but it changed the family dynamic instantly. 15-year-old James Ellroy became the caretaker of his own dad. To quote the author, "He used to be a virile bullshit artist, and he became a soft child in a week's time. The transformation ripped my heart out." Another quote, "I turned 17 in March of 1965. I was now a full-grown 6'3". My pant legs terminated several inches above my ankles. My shirts were stained with blood and pus from cystic acne explosions. I wanted out. I threw a Nazi tantrum in English class and got suspended from school for a week. I went back and did it again. I got expelled from Fairfax High School for good. Faraway places beckoned. Paradise loomed just outside of L.A. County. I told the old man I wanted to join the Army. He gave me his permission and let me enlist. It was a big mistake. I knew it from the moment I took the oath. He got out of the Army the same way he got out of Fairfax High. 2 more strokes would take his father's life just before he was discharged. July of 1965 found James Ellroy free, white, 17, and draft exempt just as the Vietnam War was gaining momentum. In short order, he was a full-fledged bum. He drank, shoplifted his meals, bounced around, did the casual Hancock Park B&E to supplement his stash until the summer of 1969, when the Manson murders introduced the concept of home security. He spent a lot of time living in Robert Burns Park at Beverly Boulevard and Van Ness. In 1968, he discovered Benzodrex inhalers, a 69-cent over-the-counter decongestant. It was a little tube that you stick in your nose, and then when you sniffed, it would clear your sinuses. But if you broke the tube open and ate the cotton wadding, you'd get a nice 10-hour speed high. This was actually used a lot by William Burroughs in the early Beats as a nice, legally obtained speed freak workaround. And Ellroy made great use of it. For years. Until he started hearing voices. This, he would later learn, was a very expected development called amphetamine psychosis. The years melted away. The 60s became the early 70s. Ellroy was in his late 20s. One day he woke up on his friend's roof and couldn't remember his own name. Terrified that he was going insane, he checked himself into a hospital. He discovered he had a lung abscess the size of a fist. Sobriety didn't take the first time, rarely does. He found himself in and out of hospitals. One day he woke up strapped to a bed. He wrote his name on the wall above his bed so he wouldn't forget it. He was terrified he was going to go insane. But he couldn't quit. Not at first. And then, slowly, it took. He got a job as a caddy at the Hillcrest Country Club. Stayed booze and speed sober, but smoked bales of marijuana. This is called marijuana maintenance, if you didn't know. He took the characters from the country club and a novel started forming in his mind, slowly, but he did not quit, started to grind on it. Got fired from Hillcrest for punching out a smart-ass rich kid. Got hired at Bel Air. Wrote the novel, called it Brown's Requiem. Sold it. It was 1981. More novels followed, Clandestine, Killer on the Road. Taking the advice of his literary agent, although he was a published author, he was still caddying. It would take him 6 books to make enough money as an author to support himself. And thus was born the Lloyd Hopkins series of novels. a deeply disturbed LAPD homicide detective. Lloyd Hopkins starred in Blood on the Moon, Because of the Night, and Suicide Hill. These books were written and published in the mid-1980s. They took place in the mid-1980s. Blood on the Moon would later be made into the James Woods film Cop. They must have spent a lot of time trying to come up with that title. In 1987, James Ellroy put Lloyd Hopkins to bed and published the first of his great novels. He checked out of the modern world entirely, climbed back into his mind, reimagined Los Angeles as it was, and wrote The Black Dahlia. The fictionalized account of the events and the people swirling around the sad and tragic death of his childhood muse, Elizabeth Short. The book exploded and put him on the map. He became a literary star. 3 books followed, set in the same world, starring some of the same characters, forming the labyrinthian L.A. Quartet: The Black Dahlia, The Big Nowhere, L.A. Confidential, and White Jazz. His 1995 novel American Tabloid was voted Time Magazine's Novel of the Year. In 1996, he published My Dark Places, the book from which the autobiographical quotes in this piece are taken. In addition to being something of a biography, My Dark Places tells the story of how James Ellroy finally confronted his feelings for his own mother, going so far as to reopen and reinvestigate her murder with LAPD Detective Sergeant Bill Stoner. My Dark Place is required reading for anyone who has their own dark place. And by that, I mean, you know, everyone. The year after My Dark Places was published, in 1997, the film adaptation of L.A. Confidential became a smash hit. All from a guy who used to live in Robert Burns Park.
Good evening, peepers, prowlers, pederast pedants, patty sniffers, punks, and pimps. I'm James Ellroy, the death dog with the hog log, and the foul owl with the death growl. I am the author of 19 books, masterpieces all. They precede all my future masterpieces. These books will leave you ream steamed and dry cleaned, tie-dyed, swept to the side, screwed blue, tattooed, and bafangooed. These are books for the whole fucking family, if the name of your family is the Manson family.
Great story if it ends there, right? Well, it doesn't have to. Go to the library page of DanaGould.com and find links to purchases for all of the items mentioned above. There's also Ellroy's new LA Quartet, Perfidia, published in 2014, and the second installment, This Storm, coming this fall. Also on the homepage of DanaGould.com, you'll see options to donate to the show or subscribe through PayPal. Every cent goes back into the show, and please know we appreciate what, if anything, you can do. But that's not all. You can also visit our store at ComedyFilmNerds.com for Bevilacqua Heating and Air Conditioning t-shirts, Dana Gould Hour t-shirts, signed vinyl copies of Funhouse, Let Me Put My Thoughts in You, and I Know What's Wrong, and don't forget, coming this fall, my new album, Mr. Funny Man, on Kill Rock Stars. It's all here, it's all online, and it's all for you, baby. It's all for you.
They come from miles to enjoy our intermission.
There is one show that I do watch. It's about LA crime, and I'm really fascinated by that. And I was actually thinking about it the other day because I was up here and I woke up early. And it was a really cold, clammy morning, you know, and obviously, but it reminded me of what it must have been like on a very similar morning in Los Angeles in 1947, when a woman was walking her baby at the intersection of 39th and Norton Avenue in South Central Los Angeles, and saw what she reported to the police appeared to be a discarded dress mannequin lying off in the weeds. But that dress mannequin turned out to be the body of a woman named Elizabeth Short,
Elizabeth Short had been reported missing for 4 days, and apparently she had been in the hands of a madman. Her body had been severed in half at the waist. The organs had been removed, the blood had been drained, and worst of all, her face, one massive bruise, with the corners of her mouth slit from ear to ear, creating a hideous, leering grin that somehow mocked the very brutality that had befallen her. She became known in the press as the Black Dahlia. And to this day, some 60 years later, the police still don't know what she said to deserve that. It must have been a doozy. I mean, Po Buddy's nerfect, but really. My favorite part of that bit is about halfway through when you guys start going, what's happening? What's going on? Is it his mother? Is he having a stroke? Am I having a stroke? Do you taste pennies? I smell toast.
Settle back now, content, comfortable, well-fed, and ready for some fine entertainment. Is everybody happy? Then let's go. It's showtime.
I never liked my grandfather, her father. And my mother tells the story of when I was about 4. We were visiting them, and they lived in Virginia. And he took me shopping, apparently, and left me in the car while he went in shopping.
And you're 4.
Yeah, and I came back, or possibly younger. And my mother said, I came back and I was screaming for 2 hours, just catatonically crazy.
Yeah.
And that led to a giant fear in my childhood life of being abandoned.
Of course.
Yeah,
of course.
And to the point that when I was in 4th grade, our 4th grade teacher was a chain smoker and would always leave class to go smoke. And one time she left class to go smoke and the dismissal bell rang, but we couldn't leave because she wasn't there to dismiss us. So we had to wait for her to come back. And in my crazy brain, I went, she's never going to come back. I'm never going to see my parents again.
I can never leave this classroom.
Yeah, no, quite literally.
Yeah.
Quite literally.
Yeah.
It's the reason I'm weird in elevators. And I would freak out. I would have anxiety attacks.
Yeah.
And then I just always had this thing. And you don't realize that there's anything wrong with you because you don't know that other people don't have the same thing.
Right.
You
Yeah.
just assume that it's...
And also when it comes up, I have a bunch of different things like that based on different things. And it's it's like a shade popping up in front of your eyes where it's not about logic or what's happening in reality. It's just this weird thing where all of a sudden you're like, I have to get out of here right now. I have to get out of here right now.
Yeah, fight or flight.
Yeah.
And my mother said to me, and I had a big problem with it. And my mother told me later in life, she goes, your dad and I are so proud of how well you've done. They used to call us from school all the time and say that you had emotional issues and you needed to talk to someone, and we always knew you'd grow out of it. You fucking asshole.
We always knew you'd grow.
You fucking idiot.
So we're all clean on the deal, and I just wanted to call and say that no hard feelings on either side of this.
Yeah.
No, Mom, let me thank you for denying me the help professionals were telling you I needed.
That is crazy.
Thanks for not waiting for me to walk off that broken leg. Thank you so very much.
And thank you all of the 70s for the child rearing that you encouraged in most people. My dad actually said that to my sister and I, where he goes, yeah, we didn't do too good with that. Because our parents would just leave us with my cousins all the time, our older cousins. And my cousin Stevie literally beat the shit out of us every single day. And it was just kind of part of after school fun.
Yeah.
We're just like, oh, Stevie's now on the wrestling team. Now he's going to wrestle us and like smash our faces into the carpet for hours at a time. And if you went in and told, my mom and my Aunt Jean were in there drinking red wine and smoking cigarettes, and my mom would turn around and go, it's adult time. And then you just had to go back into the living room to get the beating. Like the best case scenario of like those evenings was if we would all play spit, which would be super fun. Like everybody playing a game, but if you put your hand down too long, my cousin Stevie would hit your hand as hard as he could. So like every game we had an element of like physical threat to it, and you had to like you couldn't be a baby in games. You had to like really play. Like there was no, and they were like 5 and 6 years older than us. But you could, if you were going to play like Clue, you had to play by the rules, and there was no like.
And it was like, if you lose, you get a punch in the face.
Exactly.
Those are the rules.
Exactly. Yeah. He set up a baseball game where Laura and I hit baseball to him. We played baseball where he got to throw the ball at us to get us out as we ran around the bases, because it was just him against me and my sister. So he's like, okay, so you hit and then I'll catch, and then if I hit you with the ball, you're out. And we're like, okay. So we just get fucking tagged with baseballs.
Yeah. Well, I learned how to skate. We'd go to the pond, you know, we could have also fallen and died.
Yes. No supervision.
Yeah. We'd go to the pond. And my brothers would I would be the goalie, and they would just take slap shots at me until I learned how to skate out of the fucking way. Because it really hurts.
God, I don't. I mean, because I'm an only kid, and I don't have any. I mean, I just talked all the time in class, or like yelled out jokes. I mean, I was exactly the same as I am now, and I would be like, the older I got, like I just didn't. I would just yell out jokes, or even be like, if teachers gave assignments, I would just yell out like, yeah, I'm not going to do that.
When you say jokes.
So that my parents got called because they would just be like, yeah, April keeps disrupting class.
When you say yell out jokes, please tell me it was like, do you know the one about?
Well, I mean, I would just fully, yeah, I was a dick. I mean, like, it was just like a total annoying class clown from like a movie where, you know, if I got called on to give an answer to something, I would just say a joke answer. Like I just never took it seriously at all, and would just yell out joke answers, or would even yell out like if, you know, just dumb, that's what she said type shit, like while the teacher's giving a lecture. You know what I mean?
I was like that the teachers like were right down the middle. There was like 3 that loved me.
Yeah, same.
3 that fucking
totally the same.
My guts.
Yeah, like I had a few that would just laugh and go, "All right, April." Like it was funny because I could tell they were annoyed because they were like, okay, that was funny, but you can't say that. And then, I had a few that would just call my parents all the time. And I just remember the older I got, the more my mom, I mean, I was always grounded, but then, the older I got, and the more I was like, I know what I'm doing and I'm going to keep doing it. So deal with it kind of thing. My mom would just bet, she'd be like, please just don't do it anymore so I don't get any more phone calls. Like, you know what I mean? She'd be like, I just don't want to get yelled at again by a teacher. Like, just please stop doing it.
When did the awareness of like you shouldn't hit your kid, when did that set in? Because it was in our life.
I got whipped like crazy.
Oh yeah, because it used to be. I mean, people would say "spare the rod and spoil the child." Like that was a saying. Mm-hmm. Like no, if you don't hit your kids, you're gonna fuck them up.
Oh, that's
the subtext of that statement.
I was just talking to somebody the other day, actually, because a friend of mine, like, she saw a friend spank her kid or something and was like so scandalized, and I was kind of like, dude, I mean, I'm Southern. I had literally had to go pick a switch. I'm doing air quotes because that's what I was told. It was like, go pick a switch, and I had to go pick a thing off a tree to get whipped with. Like, that happened regularly as a child and I just was like, oh yeah, that's what happens. Yeah, you know what I mean?
Yeah. It was just one of those things. My mom had a board that it was, imagine you've said already, you're a big fan of The Hobbit and fiction.
I love it.
The way the hobbits had those short little swords.
Uh-huh.
My mom had a board that was cut like that and had a handle, and then
to spank you with.
Board. Well, she would use it to stuff clothes down into the washing machine, and also hit us hard on the back of the legs.
Oh, it's a multi-use.
And I was literally like, it was just, again, it's like you don't realize it's wrong because it's just the thing that you
grew up with. Of course.
Yeah.
Totally. My parents didn't hit us because my mom had such terrible parents that she was doing that 70s thing. Like it was all very Montessori and like awareness of like, this is how we're going to do it, right?
But at the same time of that, there was also just this raging dysfunction that was
100%.
Yeah.
Of just
had
like
been in the 80s at some point, people go, maybe we shouldn't smack our kids around.
And also pay attention, like just be actually know where your kids are all during the day and then into the evening. Like that whole thing of like going out by yourself. But though I remember one time I pissed my mom off so bad when I was 17 that she tried to spank me, having never spanked me. She grabbed me by the arm and I just kept turning away going, what are you doing? Stop it. And she was like, God damn it. Like going so crazy because I was just such a high school asshole with her. You know,
see, that's the age where I finally didn't get spanked. Like, yeah, once I got to high school, I was like, I'm not letting this happen anymore.
Right.
But both of my parents were like, they got whipped. It was totally we're doing what our parents did to us.
Right.
I got whipped with a belt all the time. There was like one drawer in the kitchen where like the whipping belt was, and I knew I would have to go get it. They were like, go to the drawer, and I'd have to like go bring them.
Now
the
you
belt.
have to pay good money for that.
Yeah. Yeah. But then once I got to be about like 14 or something is when I remember my stepdad tried to do it once, and I kind of was like, oh, we're going to go now. Cause like I'm big enough to not let this happen.
Well, it's so funny because I remember walking down the street when I was an adult and thinking, and suddenly that's like the memory came back like, holy shit, I used to get hit with a board.
Yeah.
Like, I hadn't thought about it in decades.
Right.
Yeah.
That's fucked up. And I called my brother. I was like, remember the board? He goes, oh yeah. Did I ever tell you what happened to the board? No. He goes, oh yeah, Ma tried to hit me with it when I was about 15 and I just took it out of her hand and I said, did you want this?
Yeah.
Oh shit.
That was the end of the board.
Yeah, goodbye board.
Exactly.
Yep.
Yeah.
Say goodbye.
Yeah.
Oh, fuck.
Yeah, no, it was really, well, that was the thing in the pilot of Mad Men. There was a thing that I totally remember, like a kid's running through the house and there's an adult in the house. It's a party and there's an adult in the house and it's not the kid's father and the guy just slaps the kid in the face.
Yes. Yeah.
Absolutely. That would happen.
Yes. 100%. We had a family friend who, we were,
It's so fucking insane.
it's insane because it's like saying all adults are always right.
Yes.
And all kids are always wrong.
Yes.
All right.
Okay, so what was your favorite Clue ending?
I did not see the ending of it. I had to leave. I literally saw it for the first time last night.
But
and
you
I
haven't
left before
seen.
the end.
Then I can't tell you anything. Then we can't
It
tell.
has different endings?
Oh, God damn it. We've ruined Clue. We accidentally ruined Clue.
No, I remember
No.
that. now. I
It was
remember that now.
released with multiple endings.
Oh, that's
Yes,
kind of funny.
You had to go. Was
Did
it
you
true that you had
vote,
to go
or did
see
you
it?
just show up and it was different
I
endings?
think that was the case.
So when you rent it on Netflix, does it have?
It has all three endings, sorry, but what's waiting for you at the end of this film is little cards that pop up and say, that's what might have happened, but this is what really happened. And it takes you through three potential endings.
Wow.
It's some of Tim Curry's finest running while talking.
Tim Curry's great. Tim Curry's great. Martin Mull is great.
Martin Mull's so funny.
I'm working on the Connect 4 movie.
Well, Battleship was a movie.
Battleship, wasn't there? Candyland was supposed to be a Adam Sandler motion picture.
How
my
did that
God,
not happen?
It's probably still going to happen.
You guys have both written things that became television shows and or movies. I, however, have written fiction that just sits on my computer for no one to read. I absolutely did write a Clue-based episode of the show Angie Tribeca, just for fun, where the entire cast of Angie Tribeca, which is a Police Squad style, terrific show, shows up at a mansion one after the other without realizing they were there, and they're all being blackmailed. And I wrote in the entire
But
cast
that's a
of
really good
Clue.
idea.
It's a really good
It's
idea.
a great idea that nobody wants. It's
Is
a
that
movie that like 25 people saw then and like 50 people love now.
But is Angie Tribeca, is that a comedy show? Or
Oh
is
yeah,
that...
yeah, it's a comedy show. It's like a In the Naked Gun tradition.
Oh. See, that's why we're talking about too much television. It's just like, I've never seen Breaking Bad. Now, when you tell people that, they get mad at you as if you just did something to them personally.
Yeah.
And it's like, I didn't not watch it because I am opposed to it. I just didn't watch it because I haven't carved out that kind of time. It already started.
No, I'm like that with Game of Thrones. Like I saw the beginning of it, and that show was on television because of my ex-wife.
Right.
You know, that was a pilot at HBO that was in trouble, and my ex-wife championed it and got it on the air, and that's how that show's on.
Well, I watched
really
it.
should watch it, but it's like I don't have a month to catch up.
But I watched the first episode of the last season with my girlfriend because I'd never seen it. And I watched a couple of episodes, and the protagonist is dead. And then about, I think 3 or 4 episodes in, comes back to life. And I'm like, if you have a protagonist that's dead and then they can come back to life, that's where the New Testament lost me.
Yeah.
You know, it's like there's
Star Trek 4.
Yeah, there's no jeopardy if there's no rules at that point.
Yeah, when people just die and come back, it's a cheat.
There's no rules.
Yeah.
It's like the Outback Steakhouse. No,
That's exactly what I was
going to say. That's the problem. That's the problem.
I'm assuming that this point has been made since the 1300s. There's so much entertainment now.
Right.
Is it all a massive distraction from people getting an increasingly smaller amount of the pie? Is it just like you really should also check out what's going on in the world around you? You don't only just watch everything you're talking about.
Humans have just never been that good at knowing what to do with their time when we weren't scrambling for food or trying to grow it. Like we've always filled it with like Saved by the Bells. That's not.
I think no, that's
it's pretty rare that we.
This has gone back to the 1200s. I'm sure
we're pretty good at covering the essentials, but when it comes to doing stuff with our free time, we've kind of universally decided that a shiny box decides that for us.
Yeah,
and we have a lot of free time.
It was licking a toad.
Right. Yeah, those were good shows.
Yeah.
But the distractions now are personalized. So if I'm in line at Starbucks, I check my Instagram and Twitter, and I see what Trump's up to. But if you're into something, you know, I mean, it's all about me. It's what I'm interested in. When you got a newspaper, you open it up. And there's 4 or 5 articles that you probably have no interest in that you're drawn to and you read. Is it good? Is it bad? I think we're all just becoming way more boxed in. I don't know. How's this play out? We're
all just in a show made by us for us. We're just watching the live stream of us walking.
Well, they say that like within 10 years, movies will be like, do you want to be James Bond in this movie? Because you can.
I'm confused. Do you mean like it would be virtual reality?
The new James Bond movie will come out and you will have an option to have the movie be like a first-person shooter POV where you are the star of the movie.
But I'm the star of the movie, but they're still telling the story for me.
Right. But it's all...
Because I used to think, talking of Clue, people thought like that we would be able to vote for endings, or you ask the audience, do you want...
Right.
Don't ask the audience, because storytelling was never like gather around a fire and they go, would you want this story to be about a queen or a dragon? And
no,
and
that's... Well, you know...
And the listeners go, I want you to tell me about it.
That's an interesting thing you're talking about. Just mentioned Star Trek. The thing that killed the Star Trek movies was when they were so in a box because of fan expectations that they weren't allowed to do anything surprising.
Right.
It was, and then it was just like you knew what the movie was before you saw it.
Right.
You know,
or the second Planet of the Apes. We're talking about Charlton Heston.
Right.
Now, if they did like the second Charlton Heston Planet of the Apes, if they kind of just did another version of that story, probably would have made more money than Beneath the Planet. But Beneath the Planet, they just went nuts. They're like...
It is one of the craziest major motion pictures of all time. It is absolutely one of the craziest...
Outside of Beyond the Valley of the Dolls,
yes.
It's the craziest sequel that seemed to have not much to do with the first one.
No, and at the end of the movie, I actually did a middle segment of this podcast about that movie. At the end of the movie, it's super intelligent gorillas fighting telepathic mutants who are keeping 2 time-traveling astronauts who are dating a cave girl hostage over a thermonuclear weapon that's about to blow up the Earth.
Well, people pray to an atomic bomb.
Right. Well, guys with no faces. Guys with no faces pray to an atomic bomb.
That's kind of awesome.
And no, how they got there is astounding.
Did they just tell Rod Serling, we got this? Rod, if you could just back off.
I believe the idea of people praying to the bomb was his.
Was his idea?
Yeah.
But that's a good idea.
That is a good idea. Yeah, it had nothing to do with, but they had to keep the apes in there.
Had nothing to do with monkeys.
It had nothing to do with it.
Have you gone to the new one?
It's fantastic. Yeah.
I love Planet of the Apes. Not as hard as you do.
It's a downer.
Well, I like them a lot because this one is very similar to Bridge on the River Kwai or Merry Christmas, Mr. Lawrence, or Apocalypse Now.
It's very Apocalypse Now.
And all three of those.
Did you see it?
Yeah. And they're always But the plot of the new Planet of the Apes is always that war is ridiculous and it doesn't answer anything and it's horrible. And I love that. I like that about this. But the quotient of humans to monkeys this time, it's all monkey. Yeah. Yes. It's all monkey. Like the Franco one was about,
one smart monkey with a couple of friends.
Yeah, so it was about 70% human. Yeah. And then there was 50-50. And now it's just monkeys.
Yeah. Well, they found the monkeys are much more interesting than the humans.
It's just CG monkeys.
Yeah, it's all. And also, one thing I didn't know about this is
I never thought I'd see a Planet of Apes movie and go, a lot of apes.
A lot of apes. Also,
a lot of apes.
By and large, mostly CG sets. That big military
that doesn't
base
exist.
Doesn't exist. It's digital.
Wow.
Yeah,
wow.
It's crazy.
I haven't seen it yet, but I'm glad you.
But it's all of them.
By the way,
are downers.
I went to that movie with opening night with Nora, packed house, 3 women.
That sounds about right.
Yeah.
Can you give me any insight to that? Being a woman, why there was no women at Planet of the Apes?
Well,
just dudes love monkeys. I mean, what is it?
I don't know. I can't speak for all women on this.
No, I want you to.
I understand the obligation. Why don't I turn the tables, boys? Why is it only boys at Planet of the Apes?
I know that furries are really into Planet of the Apes.
Furries are probably into Planet of the Apes. That makes sense.
But furries aren't.
There are a lot of lady furries.
But why is
the thing that we're not talking about is furry bathroom access?
That is a good question, though. Why?
How
can
genitals are easy to get out of your furry suit. You cut a hole in there and add some Velcro, and you're good to go.
I agree with you. I don't have an answer why dudes love it. I think that it was good that you put it back on me. I don't know, but I just didn't think it would be a gender thing. I don't understand where it's such a sausage party.
The reboot.
There aren't any women in it.
It's a father-son. Exactly. It's a father-son.
There is no women in it.
It's a boss conflict. There's not a lot of ladies.
Conflict.
There was the boss in the first, right?
Yeah.
There was
There are no women.
So it's a man trying to get along with his dad, a man trying to make it in a tough, field, and another man who's hungry for money, and then just a bunch of monkeys. So
and
the monkeys
Nova,
are good. But
Nova's a little girl at this time.
I will say,
it's like not cool.
Women love a ton of movies that focus on men. There's a lot of movies that women go to that are like, I love all the Bond movies. I love, it's just, there's renewed interest in seeing a broader range of stories. I was really glad Wonder Woman was good because it was under a lot of pressure to be that movie this year that, oh my God, that Robin Wright flying in that fucking flip and hitting off 3 arrows into a dude. What? Every piece of human genitalia should have tingled. If you saw that, you should have been awake and alive in your pants.
But I felt like the women on that island, I wanted to see more potpourri of women there. Not because I wanted fairness, just because I like big ladies.
Sure.
And you cannot lie.
I like all different size women. And,
you wanted like some R-Crumb Amazonians?
Yes.
Yeah. Or just all different shapes and sizes. I really am probably sexist that way. Like, I just think the Amazonian women were fit and
they were
all the same kind of, they had Madonna arms,
That's true.
And I'm not like there because I'm like, because I'm so advanced. It's like, I like a little junk in the trunk. That's really why that comes up. Well, you know me. Maybe we shouldn't talk about this. So James Bond was just like Hugh Hefner. Didn't interest me as a kid. Never did. It's like, I'm never going to be James Bond. I'm never going to be Hugh Hefner. I want a relationship with a lady. You guys don't have relationships with ladies, and I don't think that's right. I would love to have a lady.
I went from 7 years old with an armband on in solidarity with the El Salvadorians to my 10th birthday party, which was just 24 hours of James Bond movies, which is just a dude from a colonial empire taking shit from other places. Like, I didn't clearly learn from what I was taught when I was 7, but I just loved
the action.
I guess, yeah.
Yeah, there's just something about. I love them.
Do you love them? But
I do love them.
I just watched the opening scene of one recently, and again, it was like having the protagonist come back to life. It's like, if a guy can run and jump on a jet thing.
Well, there's some of well, I'm not sure which one.
And then
was it a Pierce Brosnan one?
No, it was a
Roger Moore.
And he's like he runs and gets on a jet.
Is that Mission Impossible? That one's Mission Impossible.
No, it's not. But that
Did it
does
also
happen in that
Bond?
too.
Yeah.
And he ends up like punching his way into the plane and driving it. And I'm like, up is down. At that point,
there's one law of physics and that James Bond has introduced the world is that if you have to, you can fall faster than someone else.
Yes. If you just hit real pointy, you can go faster through the air.
That's what I liked about Baby Driver, that Edgar Wright stuck to the laws of physics. So my brain didn't check out.
Oh, I haven't seen it.
But your brain doesn't check out. You scream and you go, and stuff. Because of CG, you're not aware of it, but you're watching things that physically can't happen in the universe, and subconsciously your brain checks out. Or it doesn't. I think for a lot of people it doesn't, but for me it does. It's like when you watch Buster Keaton and it's a huge wide shot, and someone goes, well, that really was Buster Keaton. But you were laughing while he's eating shit and falling and stuff. It's just because it's Buster Keaton and he knows how to fall funny. And do you know what I'm saying?
I totally know what you're saying. Yeah.
And the laws of gravity and physics are being applied to Mr. Keaton at the time. Yeah. So I am. No, because I do like fantasy films. Yeah. It's just certain ones. Well, there's there's that sort of mid-century. I mean, both James Bond and Hugh Hefner are like the twin towers of. That's an ironic analogy of I guess it's the twin boners.
The twin of the Twin Peaks of that sort of the mid-century male aesthetic, the sort of the blue-eyed
and coming off of the cusp Superman. Of the hippie culture, and then being right there when punk started. These guys seemed absurd to me, you know.
Well, it's funny you say that because when punk started, that is when the James Bond movies specifically became comedies. The Roger Moore ones in the late 70s are very much very tongue-in-cheek sort of action.
They probably had to.
Yeah, they were winky action comedies because that was the only way you could do it then. And I remember when all the Roger Moore ones were this sort of winky action comedy. And then we got into the 80s and we were pretending to be serious again. And I remember...
That's a great way to describe Bond in the 80s, pretending to be serious.
I remember Timothy Dalton going, I went back to the books. The books are cartoons. I have all the books. They're ridiculous. It's not great literature. It's a comic book without pictures. It's fine. And people always like, well, the best Bond movie is Goldfinger. It's like, Goldfinger is not a big, serious movie. There's an all-female Air Force in Goldfinger. Like, Champagne leader to Champagne one. No, it's insane. It's like Mad. It's like a Matt Helm movie. It's crazy.
Yeah, I could get behind Matt.
It does have a great line though. But Goldfinger is very tongue-in-cheek and winky. I mean, I was like, my name is Pussy Galore. Yeah. Oh, I must be dreaming. I mean, it's a pretty funny.
Maybe it was just too subtle for me. Like, even as a kid, it's like, hey, there's this
very
movie.
Nuanced,
there's a character. She's called Pussy Galore.
Yeah.
And I go, that's great.
Yeah,
I would just be like,
but what does she have a lot of?
As a kid, I think all of this.
Does she get me?
What does she have a lot of?
But would she listen to me?
She has so
would she
much
get me?
Vagina. She has so much.
There's so much vagina.
Yeah.
I was at my friend Heidi's house. We went into the field because they lived even further out in the country than we did. And we found a big, huge pit. It was like probably a 10-foot pit in the ground. It was like, there were like a weird, dirt cave in or whatever. So we all jump in the fucking pit, right? Of course. There's like 6-8 neighborhood kids. We're all in this pit. It starts raining. So now we're in a fucking mud pit. It was like the most fun thing. We went berserk. It was so fun. We all crawl out of the pit. We're walking home. My friend Heidi's mom is standing on their back porch, watching us walk up their back field, screaming, "You motherfucking assholes! You little fucking pieces of shit!"
She called you motherfucking assholes?
I swear to God, it was one of the craziest things I'd ever witnessed because I hadn't even heard I hadn't even seen adults talk like that to each other.
Yeah, my mom has never said that word in her life.
No, and to have it directed, and she was, I think, like super crazy or bipolar or something.
Yeah.
But I went home, so we went in, and she was so livid that we were so dirty, and it was this whole thing. And when I finally got home on the car ride home, I just started crying, and I told my mom. I think I waited till we we got to my Aunt Jean's house, and because my mom was like, "What is wrong with you?" And then I was like, "Aunt Lily screamed." I shouldn't say her last name, but she.
I'm about to tell a story where I can't say the name too.
But it's like she called us out, blah blah blah, and my mom fucking got on that phone and she was like, "You will never." And don't you? And my mom read this woman. It was crazy. And it was so awesome because at that moment I was like, oh, I'm in the wrong. Adults are right. This is how it is.
Yeah.
I'm a motherfucking asshole.
Right.
Blah, 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 blah. And like getting to tell my mom and my Aunt Jean and my cousin Cheryl that story and having them all be like, oh, no, no, no. Like if anyone's going to call you a motherfucking asshole, it's us.
Yeah.
And even we're not doing that. So like this isn't happening. It was like earth-shattering.
God, I'm getting I remember the feeling of when I was going home and like, I'm gonna get whipped. Like us talking about that is like bringing it back up, like just being like the dread of walking into the house, like, oh, I know what's gonna happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember going to my friend's house. My mom was there. My mom and I, we were all watching Elvis Aloha from Hawaii.
Yes. I love this story already.
In 1973.
Oh, you were watching it when it was on?
Yeah, it was on.
Oh, rad.
We were watching the broadcast. And my friend's mom was really drunk. And it was 1973, so I was 9. And I remember her going, I would lick the sweat off his balls.
No! Oh, my God.
And then my mother...
I'm scandalized by that right now.
Yeah, and then my mother said, okay, we should not be here. And then she got on my mom for leaving and then tried to take my mom's shirt off. Yeah, it was...
Who was this person?
It was my friend's mom.
Oh, so it was like kind of
It was a neighborhood mom.
Neighborhood
my friend's mom.
Function. Yeah.
I grew up in this, it's like where I grew up, it was like lower middle working class Italian and Irish people. Every single adult I knew was always drunk.
Right.
All the time.
Yes.
Yes.
Like same with, that's a huge reason I don't drink. Yeah, every adult in my family is a raging alcoholic and always was drunk.
Yeah. And when you're a kid, like, there are times when parents go berserk.
Yeah. That is
talk
so
about
crazy.
Guys, talk about Elvis Presley's balls and try to rape your mother.
Oh my God.
And it's up to you to deal with that by yourself, 7-year-old Dana Gould.
Because you're 9.
Yes, exactly.
And you have to be the adult.
Yeah.
All right, so we're going to go now. You're the one that stands up off the couch. All right, let's everyone to their corners. Please calm down, everybody.
This is not adult time.
Yeah.
I'm trying to listen to Poke Salad, Annie. Could you just...
Yeah, but don't you think, that is true. I do feel like at an early age, I also was like, yeah, adults don't know everything. No. Like, at a pretty early age. All arrogantly and brat. I was on one hand, yes, just by virtue of living longer than another person, you have more experience, like, how the world works more or whatever. But as far as just kind of, are you smarter than me just because you're older than me? It's like, no. Right. Like, I thought that at a really early age.
Right.
Because of the things that I saw my stepdad do and my parents do, I was like, yeah, you guys aren't just automatically right all the time.
No.
Oh, yeah. Oh, no. And it's just, and there's also things that will have, again, it was just like, it's either word or it was just that era. When I was 10, my dad got his front teeth kicked in a bar fight.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I was it's a story in our family. I think I've told it on this show before. I'll probably cut it. But yeah, my dad was a bartender and some kid mouthed off to him. My dad was in his 40s and some 18-year-old mouthed off to him and said, "You want to go outside?" My dad said, "Yeah." And then when he went out, like the kid and his friends jumped my dad.
Oh shit!
And then my brothers went looking for them, and then they ended up in the hospital, and it's all.
Oh my God! Amazing.
Them or your brothers? You mean?
No, them. My brother tells a story. My oldest brother is an animal.
Yeah.
He was a cop and then a prison guard. Like
so he's ready to fuck shit up.
Yeah, he is an animal, and he's huge.
Yeah,
and He said, it's some guy, I don't know his name, but it's like some Tommy Bodaresian,
right.
Massachusetts name.
Right.
He said, he saw me coming. I chased him in the woods, and the ambulance found him. And, he still don't talk. I see him now. He still doesn't talk to me. He still won't talk to me. It's like 40 years after I broke all of his ribs. He still doesn't talk to me.
Yeah. Why aren't we friends?
Yeah, exactly. He's kind of miffed by it.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, my brother, the story is, it was in 1974, so everybody had really long hair. And my brothers, what actually happened is they call from the bar, your father's in a fight, and my brothers ran up there, and they tell a story about, like, they come into the parking lot, and they see my brother goes, I see him, and they're holding down Dad, and somebody's kicking him in the mouth, so I spin him around, and it was Colleen Stannis, it was the guy's girlfriend doing it.
Oh my God. Kicking her on the mouth?
Yeah, kicked my dad's teeth out. So my brother punched her out.
Holy shit.
No.
It's just crazy. It was just like, it was the river's edge. Like, it was just madness.
Yeah.
It was just.
I have to say to Colleen Bottarini, if you get in there and you're gonna run with the big dogs, then that's what's gonna happen.
Yeah.
Like all those things of like what you can and can't do to women, you have now ceased to be playing in those rules.
Yeah.
If you find yourself kicking someone in the teeth who's already laying on the ground.
If your boyfriend's holding somebody down while you kick them in the mouth, then you're
all bets are off. All bets are officially
Marcus of Queensberry rules are suspended. I challenge you.
Hold your dukes up.
Jesus. I was going to, of course, like a comedian, one-up you in that story. My grandfather was killed in a bar fight, was stabbed in the guts, which no one in my family talks about because it's my mom's side. And
how is that one-upping me?
I don't know, because the second I thought of it, I was like,
what does ghost do?
Was your dad?
I have a great story about my grandfather's ghost.
Oh, how are your dad's teeth now? Can he talk from behind them? My grandfather's dead. No, but that was like the dark version. The light version is...
Oh, how'd he die? Tell me the dark version.
He was stabbed to death in a bar fight. He was a terrible alcoholic. And no one... That's the most...
to a great alcoholic.
As opposed to a fun one like I was in the 90s. That's all I've ever heard, is just that kind of... We were told he died of a heart attack up until I was in my mid-20s. And then...
You do realize it was close. Somebody attacked his heart.
Yeah.
With a knife.
With a knife to the heart.
Wait, so why does your mom's family... not want... I mean, is it like he's an outlier? Like everybody else in your mom's family is like a stand-up dude, so they don't want to get a bad rep?
There kind of isn't anybody else in my mom's family because she was an only child. So it's not like I have like aunts and uncles on that side or anything like that. It was just like the three of them knew the story. And they just told the little kids, like, oh, yeah, he died, it's sad. He would have loved you. It was like, it was all like nice thoughts.
Right.
Until you're in your 20s, like, hey, guess what? He could never hold a job. He was a terrible alcoholic. Made my mom's life a living hell. And then died when she was 20 because he got stabbed in the guts in a bar fight. Which is just like a very dramatic, but also very distant piece of information, because it's like I didn't know him anyway, and then up to a certain point that wasn't the history I knew. So now it almost just feels like a fun party lie,
right?
We're just like, oh, that's incredibly dramatic and no one knows the details of it. I actually joined Ancestry.com just to see if I could look up an article about it, but I can't find anything about it.
Check stabbed.org. Stabbed.edu.
A lot of professors got together and just it's an aggregate site of stabbings.
We as children did not appreciate how hilarious the Batman show was. It's not until you watch it later. You're like, oh my God, this is hilarious.
But it was still, you loved watching it. So what was it, what level was it working on?
I just think we knew it was silly, but I don't think that you realized, as a kid, you knew it was silly, but I didn't realize it was intentionally silly.
Yeah, I didn't think it was silly.
Gordon,
I just thought that seemed about
Gordon
right.
Used to pick up an oven mitt to use the hot phone. It's like, there's some really amazing.
But it just all tracked with me. I was like, yeah, that makes sense.
The humor just happens and it flies right by, but that show still had stakes and a little plot every episode. Like as a kid, I remember, you giggle at the hot mitt, but like he still has to get to the roof or Robin's gonna die. It's silly the whole ride, but the ride was kind of serious or tried to be serious or had serious elements to it, which is a super fun combination, especially if you're a kid and you don't know why either one of those tricks is working.
But I didn't know Batman was a comedy as a kid.
Yeah, me neither. Yeah.
I just thought it just seemed about right. right. But I did know Get Smart was a comedy.
That was so funny because Get Smart played, they were very similar shows, and the sense of humor is really similar.
Maybe Batman was subtle. Adam West is straight as a heart attack.
Yeah,
but I think one of the reasons is because when we were kids, Batman was on at 3 and Get Smart was on at 6. Batman was on in the kiddie programs,
right.
and Get Smart was on in the Hogan's Heroes, Get Smart. It was like the adult syndicated shows, but Batman would be on with the Banana Splits and all this other stuff. It wasn't back to back.
I used to watch Hogan's Heroes so much when I was a little kid, and nobody, like my dad was, he was in the shit in WW2. He never said, "Yeah, that's just like what it was like."
It's so funny because you couldn't do Hogan's Heroes now, but you did it in the 60s. But the people who did it in the 60s remember the real Nazis.
Sure.
It doesn't track. It should be.
But I mean, I think of like Mel Brooks's producers. I'm sure he was met with a ton of resistance. I guess we're trying to always move on.
Yeah.
Although maybe like what I should do on my series is a movie about a group of wacky police cadets.
Oh my God!
That would be. I want to talk about your series, and I don't think that's the worst idea. Here's the thing about having been fortunate enough to spend a lot of time with Mel Brooks recently. The thing about Mel Brooks that you don't really think about, but then if you spend a minute about it, it makes perfect sense, is he is terrifyingly intelligent.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, sure. I mean,
he's just like, but literally like the Russian Revolution, and he could just go for 3 hours.
Right.
He is freakishly smart and he's in his early 90s and as sharp as a tack and just knew everybody. Like I had a question about high anxiety, and he goes, "You know what Hitchcock told me about that?"
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Oh yeah, I guess you did know him." God damn it.
Well, when I was a kid, Young Frankenstein was the first movie that I bought a ticket to.
Oh wow.
Movie came out, watched the movie, went out to the counter, bought another ticket and watched it again.
Back in, right.
Never did that since, I think, but it was that it changed my mind and my life. I was like, holy crap. And I was probably 12 or 13.
Yeah.
Mel Brooks to me when I was a kid would be insane on talk shows.
Yes.
But I knew he was the director and writer behind these movies. I loved Mel Brooks. Tom Kenny loved Mel Blanc. These were the two guys we had hanging up in our lockers.
That's hilarious.
Isn't that really weird?
That's really funny.
So funny.
And
and now he is Mel Blanc.
He is Mel Blanc. But without the success, but without the money, Mel Brooks with roommates. Took me a long time to figure out what I really wanted to do, and I'm doing it now.
So would you say that Mel Brooks is your hero?
Yeah, he was definitely one of the heroes. It was like Mel Brooks, Andy Kaufman, Carlin, those are the people, Steve Martin and stuff, and Python and stuff. But Mel Brooks was the guy who I thought, I just thought he was so cool, and wouldn't it be cool to be him?
Like, if I were to say that my 4 heroes would be, Jesus. Carlin, Elvis Costello, Albert Brooks, Rod Serling. And your show is just like a funny Twilight Zone.
Yeah, I mean, if it works, that's high. That's high marks. Yeah, it's
oddly Stand Against Evil. To my mind, is funny Night Gallery.
Night Gallery. Yeah.
It looks like Night Gallery.
Oh wow!
It looks like Night Gallery. It's scored like Night Gallery.
Oh, cool.
Everything is like. Would they have done this in 1971? If not, let's think about it.
Oh, that's great. The show, and I'm trying to do it, and I don't know if I succeed on all the episodes, but I mash up a couple genres that I like, and then have an underlying satirical point, hopefully, if it works.
Right.
And those were the things on Twilight Zone when the satire worked, it was just mind blowing. And I kind of have written an episode like that. I hope I get it made and it comes out well. But yeah, it's not the similar thing, but I wanted to do a thing about the xenophobia in our country right now and the paranoia. And it was because of that episode. So I hope this one works. It just involves a parasitic twin and a couple other things.
Made of hair or like a real?
It's one one of the characters has a parasitic twin.
I was at the show.
Have you done that yet? I've seen all of Stan in the next season. Does anyone have?
No, I haven't done that. But I was saying, you talking about the xenophobia. I was at your show, Crab Apples, this week. Right. You didn't show up, and I did. That's okay. But
I was working on one of my TV shows.
There's a guy in the front row. From. He was Iranian or Pakistani.
Oh, yeah,
and I was talking to him, and he was so like, I was like, so where are you from? And he was like, I was from the Middle East. I was like, where? Yeah, I was like, where? And I literally had to go, like, I said, like, it's fine. That's not why I'm just talking to you. That's great. Wherever you're from is great. But you could see him like, I'm sure 80% of the dildos out there. It's like, no, it's fine.
Oh, you're damned either way. It's either some shitty white person being shitty to you, or it's some well-meaning, I'm using air quotes, white person telling you that they've tried naan and they love it. Like,
yeah.
You're not going to win.
Like that.
You're not going to win.
I love naan.
That Joe Lewis, huh?
Yeah,
Joe Lewis, hell of a fighter.
Hell of a fighter.
Yeah. Boy, that Joe Lewis, hell of a fighter. Let's see that roll of top, baby. You got that, Johnny?
So yeah.
Bojangles sure could dance.
I have a new show. It's called Misfits and Monsters. It'll be on in January on True TV.
That's fantastic.
And it's fascinating to me that you and I have had the same career path in a weird way. And now we're both doing this. Are you happier now than you've ever been, or what?
Totally. Yeah.
And no one believes you when you say that, I bet.
I'm in hell. No.
Well, something's got to give.
Yeah.
Tony V is like, he's always saying, you can't, that's ridiculous. The great relationship and healthy kids and a great career. Something's got to give. You're a slob if you think you can have all three, you know.
I wouldn't even say have it. I'm super content.
Fulfilled.
Yeah.
That's what I say. Our culture has no interest in fulfillment. Our culture is only about, it's the People's Republic of spring break. That's what we're supposed to be going for all the time.
I can tell you with utter sincerity, I have something that many wealthy people don't have, and that's enough.
Yeah. Oh, man, my deep and abiding hatred for rich people has been simmering up uncontrollably. I am a comedian you've never heard of, which means I've spent a lot of time, a lot of hours working in the service industry. And I can tell you that rich people are dumb and boring and mean. They're dumb and boring and mean. They don't like anything interesting. They're bad at doing anything for themselves, and they're unappreciative of the people that they pay to do. I really don't like them. And I want to be one of them. I cannot wait until I'm rich.
You're painting with a broad brush.
Well, yeah.
But do you really want to be one, or do you want to be fulfilled?
I think there's.
I would like to have
a difference
enough
between successful people,
yes,
and wealthy people.
Sure.
When I was married, and we were,
he's going to start crying. That's the other thing we have in common.
Yeah, exactly. Trash the marriage, ruin a lot of lives. Just Pandora. What's in here? But. You know, when we were looking to buy a house, I was quite like, I'm not going to live in Brentwood. I am not going to live in the Palisades. Mm-hmm. I will live in the Valley or Highland Park. I'm like, I'll live there or there. I don't want to be surrounded by a bunch of lawyers and doctors and their kids.
And people in the business who are successful. It is there's certain pockets of communities here that I don't want to live in. Larchmont is one of them. It's just people with their diamond shoes are too tight, you know? Mm-hmm. So I understand what you're saying, but I can't understand because I've been famous since I was 20.
Right. I don't hate all rich people, of course. I think most people are terrible, and when you make some of those people rich, they are still terrible. Sure. I think I'm talking to two people cynical enough to appreciate that point of view, that you give a pile of shit, a pile of money, you just get shitty money. That's all you get.
Yeah. And it's fairly frustrating, especially right now with the current administration, where people confuse wealth with intelligence, or wealth with
or taste,
common sense, or kindness, or empathy. All these traits that you would want in a leader or in a friend: empathy, kindness, intelligence. People aren't interested in that in our leaders or friends. When I get so depressed over the idea that empathy is considered a weakness.
The empathy is a weakness, and the fact that a lot of people thought that Trump is, oh no, he's going to be a dictator. He's going to take over. He has no interest in being a dictator. He doesn't care about other people that much. Right. He is only out for himself. He ran for president as a way to extort more money from NBC on his new deal for The Apprentice.
Right.
He was raising his public profile to get more money out of NBC for his new contract on The Apprentice. And he is only interested in his wealth and his family's wealth and well-being. And they have, as the Don Jr. Russia meetings prove, here's the thing. They have zero ethics because they come from business, and its ethics is for suckers. And that doesn't work in the public sector. It is celebrated in the private sector. And the sad thing to see is it is now being celebrated in the public sector as well.
Right.
And that is what James Brooks wrote in Broadcast News, that the devil, quote unquote, is not going to come with a red tail and a pitchfork. He's going to be a guy in a suit, and slowly he's going to lower your standards everywhere they're important. And that, I think, is what's dangerous, is this ethics is for suckers, empathy is for the weak. And I think by and large, it's a pendulum and it will swing back eventually. The people who celebrate it and think it's great will never learn, and they'll never get it. The people that voted for Trump, like my family, will be the people fucked hardest by the ineptitude of his policies. My parents are both strong Trump supporters, and they're both on Medicaid.
Right.
Guess who are going to get fucked?
Do you see them? But do you see them turning? Do they think?
No, they think he's
fine?
awesome because they watch Fox News. Obama did some clumsy, stupid shit. Not a lot, but he did some clumsy, stupid shit. But I didn't think about it because he was my guy. So there's a lot of cognitive dissonance for your team, and people approach politics now the way they approach sports. Well, this is my team and I support him. 83% of Republicans are supportive of Donald Trump, and they also think that the news media can't be trusted. Well, under Obama, they really thought the news media could be trusted. It's whoever you're telling the bad news about on my team. I think specifically with Trump, they wanted him to destroy the machine. I think the machine is stronger than he is. And what you're seeing is the machine slowly spitting him out. But it takes a long time.
It does. And I'm not sure that there's a lot of people that know how to work the machine very efficiently, that have goals that don't line up with mine, that I am afraid of more so than Trump.
Well, I never thought I'd be such a big fan of George Will as I am now.
Well, but that's everybody. Like, I used to have a problem with almost every progressive political satirist. I would be like going, "You're preaching to the choir. Oh, that's easy. Blah, 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 blah." And now I'm like going, "Oh, John Oliver, please, I need your help."
I thought you meant Mark Russell.
Mark Russell, always solid.
The deficit rag.
I need to watch these shows just to hear an audience clapping and laughing at things I agree with, because I used to just think, it doesn't matter. Who would have ever thought I would go, "Hey, let's watch Saturday Night Live"?
Yeah.
I mean, that's crazy.
Yeah.
That I watched SNL. I mean, SNL is not trying to appeal to me for the past 30 years.
Right.
It wants 15-year-old kids or younger.
Yeah.
I'm not their demo, But I watch,
We're all reading Teen Vogue now.
Yeah. Well,
it's the same reason my brother watches Hannity.
Wow.
He just wants to
have it reassured.
Opinions reinforced.
Yeah.
And that's the dangerous thing, is that, as you were talking about, with you check your Instagram, you check your Twitter feed, and it's all tailored to you.
Yeah, you just go find the news that's tailored to you.
That is the dangerous thing.
And I remember when I first noticed that coming and thinking, this is really dangerous, that you can just go to the news source that reinforces your outlook on life.
Yeah.
But we used to have news sources that were monopolized and reflected only one now considered very problematic way of life. Like, it was interesting when we all got the New York Times and we all read the same thing, but a little less than 100 years ago, the New York Times was very excited about how NYPD needed bigger guns because blacks on cocaine were too hard to shoot. Everything's a double-edged sword.
Right. And it's not perfect, but it's strange now that it's Yeah,
The thing that scares me is not just that we can, only live inside the point of view that we want to live in, and we only want our point of view reinforced by the media that we choose. But when you were talking about Obama making some mistakes or things we perceive as mistakes, I agree, but I think that those were decisions. I think every time Obama made a decision that I didn't agree with, it was well-reasoned. He listened to other people that I don't agree with, but they made some good points. I don't know. I wasn't in the room. Yeah. He was a considerate leader. And now we have this dude who just uses the tip of his penis to punch the keys on his BlackBerry late at night. I know he has a stupid Android or something. That it's just so frustrating that we have a guy who is only interested in himself. I think that is also true, but he's incredibly fearful of other people's perceptions, and any perceived slight is enough for him.
Anybody who's ever spent time with a malignant clinical narcissist.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, I am describing something that's very aptly described in the DSM-5.
Every male in my family left. My dad left, my mom's real dad left. I don't know anything about, I didn't find out, my granddaddy, I called him Nana and Granddaddy. Like I said, I'm very Southern.
Yeah.
My granddaddy.
Would you like a banjo to tell the story?
To tell the story with?
Yeah.
But he's dead now. He died only 2 or 3 years ago. But I didn't know until I was in my teens that he wasn't my real biological grandfather. I knew vaguely. I might have told this story too, because my mom didn't really explain it. When I was 8 years old, I had to go with my mom to a funeral because...
I'm already laughing.
But it was only because I couldn't, my stepdad was out of town, he was on a business trip or something, and so I couldn't stay home with him, so I had to go with her. It wasn't like she was like, come on, let's go to a funeral. You're 8, it'll be fun. I had to go with her, and it was in the woods of Georgia. I had never been anywhere more remote and country and crazily scary to me. So we drove, and it was in I remember this it was yesterday because it was in a person's living room. The casket was in the house, and I had never.
Yeah.
I don't remember because I don't think I went to go look at it because I already walked in being there's a dead person in the living room. I'm freaked the fuck out. So I'm 8. And my mom, it was somebody on my mom's real dad's side of the family. And that already, I'm like, whose house are we at?
Yeah, you don't know any.
And I remember my mom kind of dancing around it because she didn't know how to tell me at 8, you know the guy that you know is your grandfather? Well, he's not really your grandfather, technically. Yeah. So I'm like,
I just love dead people, honey.
Yeah, I just
it's a fun visit.
I really forget how at the time she explained it, but it was just maybe oh, these are my friends or whatever. But then also I remember a girl came up to me. I'm 8 and she was 6 or 7 and being I'm your aunt. And I was like, what? And then later my mom had to explain she was.
I'm your aunt. Go get a switch.
Oh, dude. Yeah, I'm gonna.
You're in trouble, April.
Oh,
that's
but you're
6-year-old.
younger than I am. Go get a switch.
I was already what? And then later, it turns out she was because my mom's real dad had remarried a lady way younger. Younger than I think even my mom. And they had a kid, and that was their kid.
Oh, right, yeah.
And at the time, she came out and talked to me. She had all of her teeth were silver. And I remember in the car ride home being
You're related to Richard Keel?
Jaws
from The Spy Who Loved Me and Moonraker.
Mostly Moonraker.
But on the car ride home, I do remember being why are her teeth silver? And my mom being well, they rotted out. They're too poor to fix them and they rotted out.
But that was a money-making scheme. That happens a lot in poor areas. The dentists make more money if they can put in a silver tooth. Oh. So they'll fucking pull teeth out.
Yes.
My mom grew up in Virginia. In the Depression, and she had all of her teeth pulled as a kid, and has had false teeth all of her life.
Wow. Yeah.
It was just one of those things. Yeah, just completely.
So but at the time, my mom just kind of was and I'm 8, so I wasn't I'm okay, fine.
Your fucking teeth.
But then later, a few years later, that's when she was oh, that was my real dad, and I'm what? And then she had to tell me the whole story of my mom's real dad when my Nana was in labor. He cheated on my mom's mom, obviously, and was not a cool dude.
Hang on. Let me just break this sentence down.
Okay.
Say that again. Your mom's real dad.
My mom's real dad.
Cheated on your mom's mom.
Yes.
Got it.
When she was in labor.
Just making sure I'm not involved.
When she was having.
None of these people know me.
When my Nana was having my mom's real dad dropped her off. She was in the back seat. The woman he was having an affair with was in the front seat. And she dropped my Nana off at the hospital, peace out. have my kid. I'm leaving with this lady. And just like left.
Did your mom know what was going on at the time, or did she just?
No, that was when my Nana was having my mom.
Right, but did she know who that woman was and everything?
Totally. Like it was just like, have a nice life, enjoy having my kid and raising it alone. I'm taking off with this lady.
Oh, it was like that was him being like, I'm done here.
Yeah. Right. So she obviously had my mom.
So what I get from this is that your mom was a terrible person. That he didn't want to be around.
Can I just say this
and
really
he was lucky
quick?
enough to find someone nice.
The visual I got of you being at this creepy funeral inside a house where there's a casket, like in the front room, I imagine. Mm-hmm. So you walk up and you see there's a casket and you're like, okay, I don't want to be scared. So you like turn away from that room and you turn around to a child going, I'm your aunt with silver teeth.
Yes.
That's like a perfect slice of a horror movie.
Yes.
Like,
in the woods of Georgia. Like,
right. Let's eat the corpse.
Yes. It was like I just remember we had to drive.
That's why I have these teeth.
It was like in the most remote wood. Yeah, all of it was scary, and I'm like, what is happening? But yeah, so
the children's forest.
Here's my question to that end. Did autopsies start because there was a purpose for them, or were they always around and then they figured out there was also a purpose to them? Or was there just like, hey, here's a body, let's cut it up and look inside
and let's dig around.
And then decades later, we can actually learn from this. Otherwise, it's just fun. Right.
There's no way to ever prove. That's a chicken egg situation for sure.
That is one of the weirdest things. And again, like we have done, we since this period of time, we have changed so much as a culture.
Since April went to the woods of Georgia.
In 1980, 5 or 6.
There is one issue. Transgender people in 10 years is like now a common thing.
Right.
Yeah. That's just whether it's a stage of human evolution or it's something that people never talked about, it's that as we have evolved and we have changed as a people.
Yeah,
but we still lay out corpses.
I know.
And have a big festival.
Yeah.
Where everybody kneels in front of it and gets really close so you can see the mesh over their lips.
Yeah.
It's just like, that was about my uncle's funeral. I just remember he had mesh over his lips.
To hold them together?
I guess.
At my grandmother's funeral, my grandma Ann, my youngest cousin, because my dad had 8 brothers and sisters, so we had cousins when I was in my 20s that were 7 and 6. Mm-hmm. And my cousin Danny, he was 7. My grandmother had just died, and they were actually very close. My grandmother had babysat them a lot when they were little. And my aunt, his mom, said to him, what was the hardest part about seeing grandma in the casket? Because of course we all walk up and take the viewing and the whole thing. And Danny said, as a 7-year-old, to his mom, I guess the hardest part was trying to pry her fingers apart.
That is crazy.
Imagine it. He was also left unattended long enough so that he tried to unclasp her hands and touch her hands.
See, I don't think the only other time I didn't go near that cat, I don't even remember who that was. I mean, obviously it was somebody.
Do you even remember telling me what your funeral plans are, April?
Oh, that I want to be totally Weekend at Bernie's.
Yeah, you want to be, quote, marionetted around your casket to yakety sax.
To yakety sax, and I want to make everybody chase me around. It'll be like Benny Hill, where I chase you around my casket. I totally want, because it's got to be funny. Because it is. It's how absurd is.
No, I'm not going to that.
Please?
No.
Please go to my funeral.
I won't respect your wishes.
I will say, yakety sax makes everything better.
It does. It makes everything funny. It makes everything funny.
Under 9/11 footage, it changes your perspective.
Somebody has done that. It's on YouTube because I looked it up.
Oh, God, I looked it up.
I did because I just looked up what people have put yakety sax to, and it is
it's everything you love,
and and it's kind of funny. I'm sorry, but it you can't not laugh at it.
The Zapruder footage.
Yes! Somebody for sure has done that. I swear, if you look it up, you'll find it.
Jonestown. Just make a list.
Yes.
Just make the list.
Yes.
And then do it. Just do it in your mind. Yeah.
Yes.
Terrible.
My friend used to sing this song just absentmindedly. You just hear him in the other room going, "Body's dead on the ground." Where? Down in Jonestown.
Oh my God. Oh no. He made that one up? That's his own creation?
You just hear it in the other room. "Body's dead on the ground." Where? Down in Jonestown. Caitlin Gill, growing up, who are your heroes?
Kids in the Hall is really hard not to say first, just as a unit, as one individual, as how I see them in my mind still. I've been so lucky to meet a couple and work with them, and it has been some of the most exciting days. I nerded out so hard with Kevin McDonald, who was kind enough to close down a bar with me and answer all my questions about who wrote what sketch.
Kevin McDonald
it was a very exciting night.
Is sweet as a peach.
He's the sweetest man. He's very kind and he's very funny and he's good at stand-up, even though he will tell you he is not.
Yes. He has... Whoever did the self-esteem job on Kevin, I want to have a talk
well
with
done.
him.
Well done. Well done.
He also knows more about the Beatles than anybody.
Yes. Oh, wow. Yeah. I hadn't talked to him about that. A new conversation to close down a bar with. I also have to say Bill Hicks, which is a increasingly divisive or even perceived as hacky answer. I guess I'm already defensive about my own choice. I just remember what it felt like to hear that for the first time, and I still go back and listen and can get that feeling. And I'm not just curious about what he would say if he made it, but I think you can just replace pronouns in what he was saying in like the early 90s with current leaders, and you have some pretty accurate takes on the world. So to still love him, Mel Brooks, of course. My dad both my stepmom and my aunt got my dad the same Christmas present one year, and it was wrapped together, a copy of Blazing Saddles and a copy of Airplane, and that started everything.
Oh, wow.
For our new VCR. That was the time. And then we got Young Frankenstein, and then I went down that hole and I never came out, and that sense of humor is still just the funny. I love smart, stupid jokes at the same time. I love brilliant commentary with a dumb, basic joke right in the middle of it. The fact that Blazing Saddles is still one of the most effectively handled political satire movies ever made, with a giant fart scene in the middle of it, is my favorite fucking thing. I love it so much.
Yeah, and as he said, like, when he was, could you make Blazing Saddles now? What he says, I could barely make it then.
Yeah. Anyone else?
Gilda Radner and Maria Bamford.
All right. Any other people
that you live
I don't
with,
know.
maybe?
Gosh, that Michael Winslow was incredibly talented. Do you remember seeing him? And
that was it, huh?
The Good? I don't know. Gutenberg was just one of the most, those performances in Two Men and a Little Lady. I mean, honestly, Three Men. How could I forget? It's like he was the only man I could see on screen.
It's bad enough me, but you couldn't love The Simpsons more.
How can I say the two of you? I can't even talk about The Simpsons. This happens to me all the time. My whole life is deciding when I haven't had a day job in a long time. I've been just a comedian for a long time, and I still just walk into a room and I'm like, I can't believe I'm here. Like, we're looking at memorabilia and you made The Simpsons, man.
No,
I can't take it.
was just a writer there. Very little to do with it.
I don't think that's true.
I did create one character on the show.
What character?
I created Ling Bouvier, the adopted Chinese daughter of Selma, based on my daughter.
That's season 12, right?
No, 15.
Oh, God.
And I will show you, it was based on going to China to adopt my first daughter, Lou. And the baby in the show is designed on Lulu's baby picture. I just gave that to the animators. I said, make her look like that. And now Ling is a recurring character on the show, and Lulu is painfully funny. And she was flipping the channels, and Simpsons was on, and Ling was on. I said, Lulu, I said, honey, that's you. And she's like, yeah. No, honey, that's you. That's the character that Daddy created. That's your baby picture. She goes, yeah. I like Bob's Burgers.
How come you can't?
Did she just come from the library? Because that was a read.
She's crazy funny. I'll tell you this story. And this is what, and this will end. It seemed like the one thing that you didn't walk out of War of the Planet of the Apes feeling was a lot of hope. Well, it did end well for them.
I was happy the humans died.
Yeah. And here's something you never see.
Well, I spoiled Clue for you, and you spoiled the war.
If you go to War of the Planet of the Apes, you think that the apes aren't going to be okay.
All the dudes who are going are still going. Yeah. It doesn't matter.
Steve Zahn was amazing.
Steve Zahn swung away with that film.
Yes, he was amazing. When he walked out and just gave the thumbs up, hilarious.
I had just watched a movie. I like monkey movies, so I had just watched.
You're in good company.
There's a guy who's done 19 versions of Air Bud, or maybe it's 21. So he ends up doing them with a monkey.
Oh, that's fantastic!
And so I watched this. He did a movie.
But unlike a lot of the apes, like Bad Ape really looks like a chimp.
Yeah.
Like even Caesar doesn't really look like a chimp. He's kind of very stylized.
Like he's tough.
Yeah.
Yeah, Bad Ape looks really like a chimp. Looks like a chimp. But I think the CG on the third of these is actually crazy good.
It's imperceptible.
Whereas the first 1 and 2 is still kind of but now it's
yeah. But this will give you hope. So we went. It's actually right there. If you hold that up, that stick.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you hold that up. We were shooting in this weird church in Atlanta when the kids were visiting me on set, and they have Jesus Christ hand fans.
Sure,
it's just a hand fan of Jesus that the church gives away.
That's right, Spirit of the Lord blowing upon you.
Lulu grabbed like 40 of them.
I like her style.
And then she left Atlanta and she went on this, there's this thing called Rustic Pathways, and kids go on these like adventures. Mm-hmm. And she went to Thailand for 2 weeks and worked at an elephant sanctuary.
That's awesome.
And she texted me a photo from Thailand of her with the fan. Like she brought it to Thailand. So the fan arrived okay. And then I went to pick her up the other day and she got off the plane and I said, she goes, we landed, I'm getting my luggage. The fan arrived okay. And then I just said, where are you? And she said, I'll hold up the fan, find Jesus and you'll find me.
I love that.
She's 15.
This church that gives out the hand fans because it's hot, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
In Atlanta, 125th anniversary of this church. And they never spitballed air conditioning?
Never at all. Here's the other crazy thing.
Let's put the money in fans.
So here's the other crazy thing. We're in this church. It's our base camp and we're eating in the rec room of this church and everything. And Lulu just wanders down in some hallway and comes up with these papers that was the financial records of this church. I don't know. She goes,
wow.
She goes, these people are loaded.
Dude, is the basement? I thought that was a set.
The basement was a set.
Okay, good.
Yeah, this is just a church that was our base camp.
Oh, okay.
Did you have time to get upstairs in that mental hospital place where you were shooting in Atlanta? We were on the first floor, but there were 5 floors of that place, and the top 3 are just an abandoned medical school now. Yeah. There's nothing. Fantastic. There's just overturned. You open up. It looks like somebody just rampaged a lab room.
Yeah.
There's still samples. There's microscopes. There's old computers.
Atlanta or outside?
Yeah, there's a fully intact psychiatrist's office. It was crazy. I stole a lot of things.
We were in the Department of Power, from Stranger Things. That building.
We use their police station. Same police station.
Yeah. And what about the house? Is the house practical?
House is real house. Yeah.
Okay.
House real house.
We can wrap up because we're just talking shop
Thanks,
now.
Guys.
All right.
I do want to go real quick though. Have you been on? Did you do Ancestry.com? Is it worth it?
I don't think so, but I don't want to get in trouble for saying that. But it's like, I'm sure I still subscribe. I've never looked at it in 4 years or whatever. But it's basically like it gave me 3 articles of like when my grandparents got married in San Francisco in 1920 or whatever, and then like one other thing, and nothing it just was nothing relevant. It was like like people's birth certificates.
I don't know anything. I never met anyone in my real dad's family and barely knew him. I obviously never met anyone, and I don't even know the full name of my mom's real dad. Never met anyone, and those are the people that like whose blood I share. I know nothing about them. I always feel when I go to the doctor and people are like, "Hey, what's in your family history?" I'm like, "Take a guess. It's as good as mine." Yeah. I don't know. Yeah,
I don't really know that much about our family. Like I don't go.
And do you care? Like I don't know. I'm not really I don't.
I mean, my kid. Obviously, my children are adopted. I mean, I don't put a lot of stock in that.
Right. Right. But don't you want to know for yourself? My thing is like health reasons, though. That's the only thing is doctors, when they're like, what runs in your family? I'm like, everyone could have died of every disease. I have no idea.
That's the kind of good thing. My dad is 87 and drinks still every day and could still put you through a wall.
Right.
It's just like, it's
you come from good stock.
It's peasant stock.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're squat.
The broad-backed Irish
of
squat, this great nation.
Flat-faced.
The potato chorus
of
this nation.
That's exactly what it is.
We're not beautiful. We're here to get shit done.
We're human.
I don't even know that stuff, though.
We're the D batteries of humanity.
You know those dollies that you roll bags of oats around on? Yeah. That's the Irish people. Throw it up here. I can get it done.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm that. Isn't Richardson an Irish name? I don't know any of that.
But you're tall and slight. I bet you're like Ukrainian or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I don't think Irish people are tall per se. I mean, except for those really tall, skinny guys with big noses.
Yeah.
That's a type of Irish guy.
Yeah. But those are often the bright, that's not black Irish. They're bright red.
They're from the South.
The South.
The South.
Yeah. They're bright red. They're orange. Orange. By the way, I'm really fucking tired of people who pronounce orange. Orange.
What's the problem?
People who pronounce orange. Orange.
Okay, but I'm not from New Jersey, so I don't have your accent. It's not AHRANGE, Dana.
George Maher gets livid when people say donkey instead of donkey.
Oh. I was like, I didn't even know
what the fuck is he mad about?
Donkey. Or dachshund instead of dachshund.
Or there's people that call...
Oh, look, it's a dachshund.
There's an accent in California where it's very odd. I think it's Central Valley, where people replace the letter E with an I. So if they're asking for a pen, they'll say, "Can I have that pin?"
Oh, that's
have you ever heard that one?
Well, I can ask you this, Karen, because this is in your wheelhouse.
Okay.
This is something I've often suspected, and I've never...
Of me?
No, but you'd know of it.
Okay.
Is Glenn Close Tim Curry?
What an honor. What an honor to be asked that question. Wait, now I'm going to, instead of answering that question, tell you a story that I heard, not Treat Williams. What's the guy's name? What's the actor?
The other guy named Treat?
Who did you confuse him with? I must know.
But he just told this amazing story of being a director on her show, Damages, right? I was going to say it and then I got scared. On Damages. And his first day of directing, Glenn Close is sitting there with her co-star and the two people that are supposed to be in the scene. And he walks up and squats down. He's like, "All right, guys, so we're taking this from the top and the two of you are..." And he starts to explain what scene they're about to shoot. And Glenn Close turns to him and goes, "Shut up, shut up, shut up, shut up."
Multiple times like that?
Until he got up and walked away. And then he was like, "Action." And he goes, "And we shot the scene and she was perfect. And the scene was perfect. And she was exactly right." And it was my favorite story I've ever heard anybody tell.
Tate Donovan.
Yes!
Tate Donovan.
Yes.
Who is the most charming, lovely man. And he was at this television festival in Austin. And he told the story on Guy Branum's talk show, The Game Show. And I was like, this is the best anecdote of all time. Shut up.
Wait, is Glenn Close British?
No,
or she just has like an actor accent.
Well, yeah, she still does the. She's from Connecticut or lives in Connecticut, but she does that mid-Atlantic throwback
Katharine Hepburn thing.
Yes,
that's amazing.
A little
Madonna,
bit.
that Madonna.
Yes,
also took.
where I will say my most annoying
thing.
You
used to do. Just do it.
What, the Madonna accent?
No, your impression of Glenn Close.
Oh, wait. What did she say? I can't remember that joke.
And the winner is Gregory Hines and Jelly's Last Jam. How do you not know your own act? How do I know your act better than you?
I haven't done that joke in 20 years, Dana. That's
still makes
hilarious.
Me laugh.
This is my impression of Glenn Close presenting at the Tony Awards it must have been 1995 or something.
Still makes me laugh.
And the winner is... Wait, I did it wrong. And the winner is... Gregory Hines for Jelly's Last Jam. That's how she announced that. That's a dead-on impression.
Just so like lovingly blowing the R's. Gregory Hines for Jelly's
Last Jam. And like crazy, like eyes, pulled back eyes over sockets.
The only line from
eyebrows.
that entire show I remember is, "Jelly, tell me this isn't your last jam." "No, it is. 'Tis my last jam." "No."
"Jelly, tell me there's more jam at the bottom of that jar."
"No, this is the last jam."
No, I can't do
This
it.
is the last jam.
Yeah, it's just an actor accent.
There will be no further jams.
What other jokes do I have?
Jam today.
I will say,
Please write some down.
People I find mispronounce crayon. I say crayon.
Jelly.
I know so many people that say crown.
Crown. Oh, my daughters call it crowns.
No, they're crayons.
Crowns. Can I have a crown?
Why?
Crown.
And I would be like, what? I remember the first time I heard somebody say, I'm like, a crown?
A clown?
Yeah,
Crown.
it's crayon.
Can I have a crown?
But your daughters were trained on the stage.
Yeah.
My daughters are all grand old gals of the theater.
They lunch.
The theater.
Those three.
Where does that come from? Crown.
I don't know. Crown.
Why do they say...
I don't know.
Why do you let them say it?
Do they have California Is there a California accent?
Yes, for sure.
Yeah.
It's like flat A's and like vocal, what do you call that? Vocal drag or whatever.
Vocal fry?
Vocal fry. Yeah.
It's so funny how quickly, though, my Boston accent can come back when I'm with people from Boston. Like it,
Sure.
It
I
just
think that's
flies
true when I
in.
go home to the South, too.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I love that I have friends who talk like I talk,
Like I won't
up
call
until
people,
a point.
When I'm with people from Boston, I won't call people queers. I'll call them queer. Or normally I would call them queers. Don't be a queer.
Right.
I would say that.
That's what you choose to say.
Yeah.
Fully knowing.
Other podcasts reach for the sky. The Dana Gould Hour. We barely try.
The Dana Gould Hour. Never an hour. This has been the Dana Gould Hour, brought to you by the Internet. Music by Andy Paley, with Jake Posner behind the board. Produced by Jeff Fox. Graphic design and web production by Spencer Hunt and Segan Friend. Sound editing and post-production by Jalinda Palmer and Joe Napolitano. Hey, if you like the show, why don't you drop us a line at show@danagould.com. Tom Kenny speaking.
I'm a DJ, I'm a person, I'm a singer, I love to sing and DJ. Boom! Peace out. You want me? Peace out. Boom.